Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for joining us. Please stand by. The live event will begin shortly. Thanks for
All right, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a very, very important announcement about the Queens Bus Network redesign. And without further ado, I'm just going to change one setting here. And I am very pleased to welcome our president, Charlton D'Souza. Also, just a couple ground rules for people on Zoom. You may know that while you do have the ability to start your video, you still cannot unmute yourself on your own. So when it's your time to speak, please let us know if you want to raise your hand, or we will call on you and we will send you a request to unmute. So without further ado, here's President Charlton D'Souza.
Good evening, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Loud and
I
clear.
just I just want to say thank you so much for joining us on this hot July evening. I know many people are away, so today is Wednesday, July 10th, and we're starting at 7:08 p.m. On behalf of the team at Passengers United, my name is Charlton D'Souza. I'm the founder and executive director, and we're honored to have all of you here today. And the Queens Bus redesign is it's going to be a historic redesign in our borough. But unfortunately, the MTA is not realizing that you cannot eliminate bus routes, you cannot combine bus routes, eliminate bus stops, and call it a redesign. That's not how it works. And there's still parts of Northeast Queens and Southeast Queens where people are going to have to be taking 3 to 4 buses to get from, for instance, from Far Rockaway to Bayside, or from Far Rockaway to Astoria. That's unacceptable, guys. And who's affected by this? Our senior citizens, people with disabilities, high school students, elementary, junior high school students, teachers, healthcare professionals, first responders. Many of us get on the bus and we take the bus. So, for instance, I don't drive, I take the bus and subway everywhere. I rely on the buses as well as all of you in Queens. So, you all are counting on us at Passengers United to get this right. So, as all of you, I'm sure many of you have been watching our previous meetings and some of the things we've done. And we actually are going to play a video later on about the Bronx bus redesign and what happened in the Bronx in terms of the bus stops that were eliminated at the Patterson houses. That was horrible, guys. And that was after the Bronx bus redesign. And there was a school there, a hospital, and people had to walk 9 blocks. So that just goes to show you the level of the incompetency at the MTA. So this is why later on, our colleague Alan Rosen, he's going to be reading a prepared statement from all of us at Passengers United. It's a letter that's going to the Queensborough president. And by the way, we reached out to the Queensborough president's office, and the representative representing transportation could not be here tonight. And the borough president's office did not send a staff member here. So, I'm not surprised. There's a lot of special interest operating in the Queens bus redesign. And there's a lot of people who are wealthy who are trying to influence the outcome of this redesign. But all of us at Passengers United are volunteers. We all volunteer. We love transportation. We all have regular jobs, and then we all, volunteer for Passengers United. So we're doing a lot of great work, and I can see the chat is already active. Everyone's chatting there. So why don't we go around and introduce the colleagues? And my name is Charlton D'Souza, for someone who was asking. And Jack Narenberg, special thanks to our vice president. He's doing an excellent job. David Kuferberg, our vice president of buses. Special thanks to him. Special thanks to all of our board members, Alan Rosen, Karina Nieves, Danny Kumar, and just so many other people who are out there making a difference. Paul Pereira, and I'm just so honored that you all came out tonight on this hot night. So why don't we get this going? And Jack, take it away.
Sure thing. Thank you very much. So, in case I haven't introduced myself, I'm Jack Nierenberg, and I'm the Vice President of Passengers United. And we've been out and about, really going on the front lines, not only helping everyday transit riders, well, that's our mission at Passengers United anyway, not only helping everyday transit riders, but really making an effort to elevate their voices, elevate your voices, particularly those who are underserved by public transit, whether you're in a transportation desert where you lack adequate access to public transit, if you have any at all, or you're disadvantaged or in a more vulnerable situation in any other way, whether you're a senior citizen, someone with a disability, mobility impairment, health condition, you name it. We're here to elevate your voices and really make sure that you get the proper representation that you've been lacking for so long and that you shouldn't be lacking in this day and age. The fact that we're having this discussion, the fact that we even have to be here today is outrageous, because the MTA has clearly failed. They failed time and time again to actually properly incorporate your needs into a historic initiative like the bus network redesign. So it's going to be a game changer for the region, and I cannot say it's going to be a game changer for the better. One thing that they continue to claim over and over again is that this bus network redesign is going to improve equity in the region. We stand for true equity. I can tell you for sure, based on my conversations that I've had with the redesign team, I am not confident that they even know anything about what equity even is. If I asked them to define equity, I don't think they would be able to answer that. Because I'm studying equity right now. I can say without a doubt that I've become an authority on the subject. I've done my due diligence, as have many of you on this call right now, with understanding equity, what it means for transit to be equitable, how we define equity, how we measure equity. And these are the kinds of things that the MTA, as an agency that's undertaking such an initiative, should know what to do. And the fact that when I asked them, the redesign team, in person, when I went to one of their open houses a few months ago, I asked them specifically, how are you incorporating equity into the plan if you believe that this is going to improve equity in the region drastically? They told me that they're going to be doing an equity analysis at the end of the process to make sure that this plan is equitable. That is a red flag because, first of all, it doesn't work that way. You don't just put together a plan and assume that it's equitable and then run it through a couple tests and then say, oh, it passes the test, so it's equitable. No, you have that set from the beginning. You know what you're doing so that when you actually put together this plan, you're doing it with equity in mind and at the forefront. But you know what? Let's go on with that. They're doing the equity analysis. I then asked the redesign team, what metrics are you using to evaluate equity in this process? You know what they told me? We don't know. We haven't figured that out yet. We'll get back to you on that. Okay, that's an immediate red flag. You should have had that figured out from the very beginning, because if you don't have that figured out from the very beginning, then everything you do from that point on is going to be distorted and it's not going to accomplish what you set out to accomplish and what you're promising everyone. So the plan is inequitable, and I'm going to give it back to Charlton because I know I could go on and on with this. And you'll see as we continue what the real problems are with this plan.
All right, everyone. So right now, this was a great speech by Jack Narenberg, and all of us on the Passengers United team. Many of us attended the meetings. David Kufferberg, our vice president of buses, he attended almost all of the community board meetings in Queens. David, please take it away. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Kupferberg, Vice President of Bus Advocacy at Passengers United. Within New York City's city limits, if someone is situated more than a quarter mile from the local bus stop or a half mile from a subway stop, the person is in a transit desert. I believe that how to determine if a bus network redesign is a success or failure is local riders and how they are treated as part of the redesign effort. As per MTA's presentation, 17% of riders would lose their bus stop. This is unacceptable and won't help the MTA in a Title VI case. After all, 17% of the Queens population is 386,000. I did my own analysis of bus stops within Queens. 95% of the bus stops in Queens are good exactly where they are. Now, implementation of any redesign proposal must be based on community input. Of course, there has to be compromise and negotiation, and no plan will satisfy everyone. The plan that is finally decided upon must not be dictated by a higher authority. Communities, however, must also be willing to support plans that are for the greater good and not take a parochial approach. Most of all, the communities that are virtually isolated from others must not block attempts to improve access to their communities by wanting to stay isolated and normally dependent. We must all work together to have better bus service for Queens. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David Kufferberg, our vice president of buses. He went to all the community board meetings, listened to every comment that was being made, and we've all been engaged here at Passengers United. So what we're going to do is we're going to have everyone speak for 2 minutes from the different communities that are on the Zoom call. And for those of you on the Zoom call, there's something that I was just reminded I need all of you to do. If you guys have social media, Facebook, Twitter, or X, Instagram, please cut, copy, and paste the YouTube link of our YouTube live stream and share it on your social media pages so that more people can listen in on the conversation tonight and they can join in. And
I just put that in the chat.
Jack just put that in the chat. It's there. That's our live YouTube stream, and this will also be on our replay, so you can watch it over and over again. And for those Passengers United members who are on now, I know many of you are on. I just want to say thank you. Some of our Passengers United board members are on. But before we read the official letter and our policy statement, I wanted to show you guys what happened in the Bronx with the bus redesign. We actually had a video that we put together showing what happens when the MT messes up, as did in the Bronx. Some of you have seen this video, many of you have not, so we decided to replay it again. Jack, do we have the video? Okay, let's do it. Let's replay it.
The MTA has been redesigning bus routes in every borough to be streamlined, more reliable, and provide better service.
Faster travel, more reliable travel, better connections, ease of use. Those are the things that our customers care about the most.
We made sure to look at bus stops that were close to other bus stops and had the lowest ridership. So we were inconveniencing customers as little as possible and the fewest number of customers.
New Yorkers have the slowest buses in the country. The MTA offers an unprecedented opportunity to improve bus service.
Just the sight of the bus usually means you're on your way.
Oh, it hasn't come by.
Now imagine you're waiting and the bus never comes, or when it does, it skips the stop.
Bus right now.
Where's the bus?
People who live in Monhaven or on Willis Avenue that have to catch this bus, they walk down 143rd Street to get the bus here. Okay? MTA now wants us to walk 6 blocks to 149th Street to get on the bus. These are really long blocks.
What's happening is we're inconveniencing a population in the community that really relies on this bus. The accessibility wasn't part of the plan. We have a lot of seniors in our community that if they were included in this plan and they were engaged in the plan, they would have known that this wasn't the bus stop to take away.
This bus stop is still not been restored by the MTA. We're trying to get this bus stop reinstated. So
can you see seniors with walkers and wheelchairs or anybody standing there waiting for a bus?
But now the bus is back.
That goes to show how when we work together, we get things done. We got our bus stop back.
It also should be a lesson to any city agency or any organization that wants to do something in our community or make any changes to come and talk to the people directly.
The next redesign is in Queens.
Look at the map. It's not there anymore.
They are planning to take away our Q41 bus and curtail our Q11 bus and not replace them with anything.
These are double fare zones. These are communities that are outliers. I know that I'm affected in College Point where I live. I'm also affected where I go to work in Jamaica.
How are they going to get to school? How are the elderly going to get to work or get to the programs that they so desperately need?
senior citizens and people with disabilities should not lose their bus stops. That's our primary concern.
They're proposing eliminating Newport Avenue service in Rockaway over the last 4 years. They proposed it 3 different times. And each time the community said we don't want it, and they're still proposing it.
We would have to transfer several times, pay more fares, and it would just double the trip.
We need more buses, not less buses, and we need to be able to have access.
Each and every one of us need to make our voices heard.
All right, everyone. Can y'all all hear me? So this was the video done by the great community organizers in the Bronx. My hat's off to Clarissa and the team in the Bronx. They did an excellent job. And, you know, Passengers United, we did speak at the MTA meetings. We did try to speak up about all the things that were happening. And we did the best there. But lessons were learned from the Bronx bus redesign. They even messed up the Staten Island bus redesign. So the fact that, and as you're going to see, Alan Rosen, who's one of our board members, he is going to read a letter that was put together by all the members of Passengers United, and he's going to express some very, very serious concerns. And I'm sure that every community board member on the Zoom call is going to agree with us. I doubt we'll find anyone who will not agree with us. So why don't we get to that right now, if we can. Alan, are you ready?
Yes. Do you have the letter on the screen for me to? Okay.
There we go.
As you may know, the Queens bus network redesign is an historic undertaking envisioned by former New York City Transit President Andy Byford to address a bus system that has become outdated. Thus far, 3 versions of the Queens bus network redesign have been released. Every Queens City Council member objected to version 1. The MTA delayed the release of version 2, the new draft plan, saying they wanted to get it right this time. After version 3, the proposed final plan, the MTA promised that the thousands of public comments received would be incorporated into a new final plan that would be released in the future. Instead, the MTA has done a sudden 360, now proposing a hearing on the proposed final plan for July 24th, 2024. This hearing must be postponed until at least January 2025 for the following reasons. Many Queens residents are on vacation for the summer and are unable to attend this hearing for other reasons. None of the thousands of comments from the public received since the release of the proposed final plan in December 2023 have been incorporated into a new plan. The MTA has provided no evidence that its goals of meeting customer priorities of more reliable service, faster travel, better connections, and ease of use have been met. Although improved interborough connectivity was one of the goals, no new routes are being offered, for example, between Sheepshead Bay, Astoria, Bayside, and the Rockaways. Furthermore, under the latest plan, one of the currently 3 Queens routes that serve Manhattan, the Q101, will no longer do so. Also, there's been a lack of coordination with NASA intercounty express bus routes. The plan does not properly address communities and transit deserts, that is, areas that lack adequate access to public transit. Many of these areas, including parts of Southeast and Northeast Queens, have been historically underserved and will continue to be. Some of them will even see reductions in bus service and coverage. The plan does not accommodate the influx of riders into the transit system that congestion pricing is guaranteed to have if implemented. The plan ignores the fact that there are shortages of both buses and bus drivers. This means that many runs will not be filled if bus drivers call in sick, compromising service. The MTA has not announced where additional free transfers will be provided due to route revisions. When the Bronx bus redesign was implemented, many riders complained having to pay double fares and complained that additional transfers were needed. Furthermore, the additional transfers that were provided were never publicized, meaning that future residents will not be aware of them and may use other routes unnecessarily, requiring double fares. The MTA has ignored the nearly 3,300 passengers who have signed a petition against elimination of over 1,400 bus stops, a third of them in the whole borough. In cases where bus stops were returned, other stops were taken away. Bus stop spacing will increase from an average of 818 feet apart to an average of 1,151 feet apart, increasing walking distance for some to 3/4 of a mile to the closest bus route. The MTA's 2010 guidelines call for a bus stop every 750 feet, which is already exceeded in Queens. Instead, the MTA has chosen to follow European standards instead of the domestic standard or the MTA's 2010 guidelines. This is being done only to save operating costs, not to help passengers. It will also disproportionately harm seniors and people with disabilities who are unable to or have difficult walking farther to catch the bus. More than that in Reason 10. Despite promises to do so, the MTA has refused to publicize the existing and proposed revenue miles and hours to prove that their plan is an overall service addition instead of a reduction. The MTA stated that the proposed final plan will cost $30 million more to operate. However, those funds do not necessarily mean additional passenger service, but rather could mean more and efficient service with more buses running not in service. Despite the MTA's claim that the plan will result in greater transit equity, as MTA Chair and CEO John Lieber said when the proposed final plan was released, equity was not properly incorporated. The MTA did not use adequate quantitative or qualitative data to determine changes to bus routes, bus stops, etc., nor were any studies conducted to determine disadvantages on vulnerable populations, not only lower-income residents, people of color, but also seniors and people with disabilities, how they would be affected by these changes. Furthermore, a property equity analysis was never done for the Queens network redesign, nor were any metrics to evaluate equity established at all. No quantitative data were provided regarding ridership on a stop-by-stop route, segment by route segment, or even full route by route basis, to back up the MTA's decisions for the plan. The MTA included some of this data for the bus network redesign in the Bronx and Brooklyn, publishing statistics for all those routes regarding ridership per revenue hour, ridership per revenue mile, fare box recovery ratio, speed, etc. However, for the Queens plan, only data for route corridors were provided, which provided very limited understanding. The MTA typically provides detailed statistics for routine service changes regarding cost, the number of riders who have to make an extra transfer, walk further to a new bus route, or conversely, riders who have fewer transfers, shorter walks, etc. However, these statistics on a proposal-by-proposal basis were not presented as part of the Queens Bus Network redesign process. Public outreach for the plan has been insufficient. Only in recent months have the digital displays linked the website for further information, and no printed materials were posted on the buses. Attendance at meetings, open houses, and pop-up events were very low, reaching under 1% of Queens's 500,000 weekday bus riders. Also, the booklet for the plan was not provided at senior centers and hospitals, excluding those without access to computers and mobile devices from the process. In the Southeast Queens route profiles, the bus stop eliminations were not provided to elected officials and the presentation given to them. As an elected official, we are depending on you to advocate for the needs of your constituents who deserve better public transportation options and proper representation by insisting that this public hearing be delayed. Holding the hearing on July 24th would be no different than giving the MTA a blank check to make whatever changes it desires. Rushing the Queens Bus Network redesign without properly incorporating public input nor performing due diligence would be catastrophic for the riding public, and we must not let that happen. I'd just like to add, basically, the MTA is saying, trust us, we know what's best for you. They obviously don't. Okay, Charlton.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Thank you, Alan, for that letter and reading of the presentation. So all of us at Passengers United worked very hard on that letter to put it together. It was important that we had gotten that done. And it was a team effort. There's some people on this call who I want to thank, and they worked behind the scenes. So thank you for the other members as well. And for the elected officials and community board members listening in on this call, I need you to understand something, that this bus redesign is very, very important because our senior citizens and people with disabilities rely on their bus stops. And you know, one of the things that Jack mentioned about the equity issues and stuff, that should have been done before the plan was done. And in certain boroughs, information was put, but the ridership information was put on the in the Brooklyn bus redesign and others, but for some reason certain things were omitted out of the Queens bus redesign, and so that is concerning. So right now the most important thing that we need all of the community stakeholders on this call is to help residents and passengers file complaints on the MTA's website. Jack, why don't we go to our website to show them how that can be done? All right, everyone. So this is the Passengers United website. This is passengersunited.org. And as you can see, as soon as you come on a home page, it says access our Queens Bus Network Redesign portal there. We also have the Brooklyn Bus Network Redesign portal there as well. So why don't we click on the Queens Bus Network Redesign portal? And as you can see, it says Wake Up Queens, the new bus network redesign plan is out. And as you can see, if you look down below, it says register to speak at the MTA's public hearing. You can do that through our website. So if you click that link, it takes you right to the MTA's registration process. And I believe you can click down below. Is the link right there, registration details. Those wishing to pre-register to be heard, you can click on that. And what's great about this is you can do it online or in person. But as you guys just read, the letter that we just read to you, we want the elected officials in Queens, we want the governor, we want the Queens Borough President to cancel this public hearing. The MT should not be having this in the middle of the summer. Now, let's go down where it says learn more about the redesign. You'd be surprised, guys. A lot of bus drivers, a lot of people who use Queens Bus Network, they do not know that there's a redesign happening. The MTs only reached out to maybe 1% of the population, and a lot of people don't know what's coming. And it's better to, raise awareness now. So if you know someone, if you ride the bus, get up, make an announcement on the bus, right? Tell everyone what's going on. Show them our website, show them where to go. So this is the Queens Bus Network redesign page. Let's scroll down and you'll see all the information there. Now we go back to our website. You can read other people's comments from the previous plan. And this contains 1,197 written comments by the public on the Queens Bus Network redesign that was submitted to the MT board between March 29th and June 22nd, 2022. And you can read all those comments. Let's go back. You can also view the full bus map PDF if you want to see the bus map. And we're going to talk about overnight bus frequency. I know it's something many people have mentioned. It's something we'll talk about later. But the most important thing we need people to do is submit a comment to the MTA. So if you click on that red link above, you can do that. And that is very, very important. And when you submit this link to the MTA, I would also suggest cut, copy, and paste your comments and send that via email to your elected officials. That is very, very important. So now let's go back. And you can contact your elected officials. Click on that link. And if you click on that link, it's going to take you to all the areas where you can contact your elected officials on there. Who represents me, right? Will show up. And if you put in your home address there, it'll come up and it'll tell you all your elected officials for your particular area, including your community board, I believe. And your all the information should be there. City Council, New York State Assembly, New York State Senate, and Congress. Let's go back. And there was one more thing I want to show everyone. Let's go up for a second. Oh yeah, the recordings. If you want to watch our previous meetings on the Queens Bus redesign, all of our meetings are there. You can watch all of that. We have a lot of stuff there. And we've actually, I think this is going to be our 5th meeting. We've actually had 4 Queens Bus redesign meetings already throughout the years. And the first one was on Mac Campus channel. So we have that there. Now let's go back up because I want to show something to everyone. Does everyone see where it says provide feedback on remix? So the MTA's remix system does not allow you to draw your own bus route. It only allows you to draw and make suggestions and comments based on the map they have. So there's some things that they have to work on improving on. But that is something that we've reached out to them. We had asked them to do a video course. They put the video course in like 2 weeks ago, and that was too late for many people in the bus redesign. But the video is there. So they also have a video on their link as well that you can watch. And for those of you who live in Brooklyn watching this, the Brooklyn and Queens bus redesigns are interconnected. So what's happening in Queens will affect Brooklyn residents. So just be advised of that. Why don't we go back? Okay, so that's that. And one thing I do want to plug, let's go to the Passengers United website, the main page. So why don't we go to where it says more? Let's click on that. And let's click on our events. So for all of you watching on the live stream tonight, all of us at Passengers United are volunteers. We're actually having a Sunset Social kickoff fundraiser on Sunday, July 14th at 5:30 p.m. We need all of you. Anything counts, whatever you can give us, that helps us keep going. And we are a 501c3 nonprofit. However, we don't have the tax exemption status yet. We're getting that. But any donation helps. You know, if you want to donate $2.90, you want to donate $1, $5, everything helps. And we would really appreciate it. And we do have ticket sales. Let's click on that. And as you can see, we have a valued commuter for $20, community uplifter $45, transit reformer $80. So if you'd like to make a donation, please click there. All right, let's go back to the bus redesigns. So we have a lot of things that have been going on, and we're going to get to all of your comments right now because I know so many of you want to comment. And the first person we're going to go to Fareen Sharif. I know he's been helping us with this behind the scenes. Fareen, are you there?
Yes, I am here, and just to make a slight correction, it's actually Farhan.
Oh, Farhan, I'm sorry. It's hot in here, guys. Sorry
No
about
problem.
that. Sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm as a private citizen and as a citizen of Queens, unfortunately, with sadness, I do have to say that I fully disapprove of the MTA's Queens Bus Network redesign that has come out. Not only is it, you know, not equitable as you showed to all of us how there was no transit equity in place, how they were removing so many bus stops and the effects that took place with the Bronx bus redesign efforts. But what we also see is that many members of the public don't even know about this. I see myself as someone that's lucky that has knowledge about this because I'm very involved in my local community and I'm active all throughout the places. That's how I know about this Queens Bus Network redesign. But sometimes I sit down and I think to myself, what if I had no interest in my local community and this was not something that I was involved or engaged in? That means that I'd be riding the bus every day, just, not having the knowledge that, God forbid the bus stop that is very convenient for me might be removed tomorrow. And the next thing you know is that when this bus network redesign is implemented, I would go and I'd say, where's the bus stop? And then let me know, oh, well, you see, this is not your bus stop anymore. The bus stop that's like 6 blocks away, that's now your bus stop, which is very ridiculous. And, I fully agree with whatever you said, Charlton, and everyone at Passengers United, that this should be delayed all the way to January of 2025 because we're in the middle of summer right now. No one is participating in events. Everyone is either traveling or either everyone is at home meeting their guests, catching up with their family and friends after many years or so, and so on. So I fully support the fact that it should be delayed up till January 2025. And I believe that the MTA should take more concrete efforts in reaching out to the entire community. Just saying that, oh, you can look it up is not enough. We have a lot of senior citizens, as you showed, from the Bronx bus network redesign that will be impacted by all of this. So many people are not even internet literate. You can't just go up on the internet and just look up Queens Bus Network redesign when you don't even have the knowledge about it, So I'm really thankful for you, Charlton, and I'm really thankful for Passengers United for raising the awareness on this issue and for advocating for this bus network redesign hearing to be delayed all the way to January 2025.
So did you want to go through the routes in your area that you're concerned about? Because that was what we wanted everyone to do. So Jack can go on the screen and pull it up. And then you wanted the Q112 or 113, 114, and 115 in the Southeast Far Rockaway grid, correct?
Yeah. So, okay, I will also discuss about the specific routes that, thank you for reminding me. I will discuss about the specific routes as well that I have issues with. So specifically for the neighborhood of Rosedale, which is in Southeast Queens, currently the way that the bus network redesign has been planned out, they have a new proposed bus line. It's called the Q86 bus. Here's how it will run. It will replace the current Q85, which goes down 243rd Street. And for those of you who know it, it's a commercial corridor in Rosedale. Now, it's not just going to stop there. It's going to further continue down on Huxley Street to give access to people in the southern portion of Rosedale, bus access, which currently southern Rosedale is neglected from. Now, when you hear about this, you might think, oh, well, this is a really good idea. The MTA is very wise. They're going to be extending a bus route into southern Rosedale, which that portion of Rosedale is a transit desert. But little do you know that Huxley Street is such a narrow bottleneck. As someone who has personally driven there before, driving is almost impossible over there for a small car. Now imagine the bus drivers who have to drive through Huxley Street every single day. The difficulty it will be to maneuver on the streets, it's nearly impossible, and it will be a nightmare for all of the bus drivers. And no offense, but you know what this shows me? This also shows me at the end of the day that the MTA horribly did their research on the bus network redesign, so much so that they've showed that they do not have any care for our communities. And it's like you just look through Google Maps just to make this bus network redesign, but you never actually went out in the community and actually saw the road itself, because if you saw Huxley Street, you would have never done this in the first place. Now, just regarding that, I do have suggestions on what can be done for Rosedale, specifically with the bus routing. And I promise you, once all this is in place, Rosedale, I believe, and I safely say this, will be the first neighborhood in Southeast Queens that will not be called a transit desert. So my first proposal is that the Q86 cannot run through Huxley Street. We need to stop that immediately. I promise you, the moment that runs through Huxley Street, the residents of Rosedale will be infuriated. Okay, now if you remove that Q86 bus running through Huxley Street, then how does it solve the problem of southern Rosedale not becoming a transit desert? I'll tell you. Currently, there is a bus called the Q84. The Q84 runs on 120th Avenue through Cambria Heights. Now, the end point of the Q84 is around Laurelton Parkway, and I would say my proposal is to extend the Q84 into Rosedale. How do you do this? As you see over here, there's a little street below it called 130th Avenue. It should go down 130th Avenue and make a turn, going into Rosedale, crossing the Belt Parkway. You would then end up in 130th Avenue and Brookville Boulevard. It would go straight down Brookville Boulevard, meeting Francis Lewis Boulevard and Brookville Boulevard. From there, it will go southbound Francis Lewis Boulevard and then eventually make it on Hook Creek Boulevard and Francis Lewis Boulevard. Make it all the way down through Hook Creek Boulevard and then make a turn on 149th Avenue. And then it would keep going across the 149th Avenue corridor until it reaches the intersection of 149th Avenue and Brookville Boulevard. Now, how is this the best plan? Because currently, the Francis Lewis Boulevard that's in Rosedale does not have bus coverage except for the express bus. So all the people that are living on that corridor or near Francis Lewis Boulevard, they don't have access to local buses. The other thing that solves is that the people living on the 149th Avenue corridor, which is another major street in Rosedale, that southern portion of Rosedale also has the bus coverage and the bus access. The other suggestion that I have is that the MTA has come up with a new proposed Q87 bus, which runs through Merrick Boulevard and then would turn on Hook Creek Boulevard and go into Green Acres Mall. That is replacing the Q5 bus that used to go to Green Acres Mall. Now, here's what can be done to solve this. I think the Q87 should not go to Green Acres Mall and should continue going down Hook Creek Boulevard until it reaches 149th Avenue and make the turn on 149th Avenue and serve the entirety of the corridor. But wait, there's another problem. Which bus will then go to Green Acres Mall then? The Q5, which currently runs to Green Acres Mall, would continue to run through Green Acres Mall, is what I propose, so that no one is neglected of that. Now, another problem that is with the Q87 that I just proposed, going down to the entirety of Hook Creek Boulevard. The issue with Hook Creek Boulevard is that below the Conduit Avenue, Hook Creek Boulevard floods, which is why the MT does not want any buses to be going down that route. So why do I propose this? I'm going to tell you why. Because the MTA has proposed a new route for the express bus to Rosedale, which is the X63, that it would go entirely up Hook Creek Boulevard. And including that portion of Hook Creek Boulevard, which is below the Conduit Avenue, as you can see on the map over there. So if the MTA says that, oh, well, you know, we cannot have this new proposed Q87 go down all the way through Hook Creek Boulevard because of flooding and yada, yada, yada. Well, that is absolutely untrue. Because if you can make an express bus go through that Hook Creek Boulevard and make it go through the flood, as you say that it cannot go through, then I believe that the Q87 should go down through Hook Creek Boulevard, and all of the citizens that are living on the corridor or living near that have a right to local bus service. With this plan that is implemented, I promise you, Rosedale will no longer be called a transit desert. And I'd say it's the first neighborhood in Southeast Queens that will not be a transit desert. And I think that that is the most beautiful plan that could be implemented.
All right, everyone. So that was great. And one of the things that we've all discussed since we're on Southeast Queens, we still do not have a route from Far Rockaway, which everybody knows I've been a big advocate for. Even Mark Holmes was a big advocate for a route that will go from Far Rockaway to Bayside for the students at Cardozo High School, down Springfield. So I don't know how the MT can call this a redesign when people from Southeast Queens still have to take 3 to 4 buses to go all the way down, guys. But we have other speakers right now who want to speak, and we want to keep this moving. So right now we're going to go to Judy Birdie in Roosevelt Island, who's very concerned about the Q102. And we really want to thank Judy. She's been collecting close to 200 to 300 petitions for Passengers United on saving the Q102 from Queens Plaza to the Roosevelt Island area. And that's really a transit desert there too, guys. When the subways break down, they really have not much. So let's go there. Thank you. And let's go to Judy. Thank you.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Charlton.
Yep.
The Q102 bus has run, well, as long as I took it since the 1950s, and suddenly it's no good. So the MTA, in their wisdom, decided to change to something called the Q104. The main customers at the Q102 bus are residents of the Queensbridge housing and Kohler Hospital and Roosevelt Island. Kohler Hospital is a long-term care facility with 500 residents and about 1,000 staff. The Q102 goes from Roosevelt Island through Queensbridge and to Queens Plaza, and then over on 31st to Astoria, to Hallett's Cove and Astoria. Now they want to change the route from not going to Queens Plaza, but to go off Roosevelt Island, go on Vernon Boulevard to the terrible corner where Costco is, which is always a traffic jam, to go up Broadway. Broadway is a narrow street, and it already has bus routes on it, and it would just be completely congested. The intersecting subway stations that the MTA put on their map are not ADA accessible. The Broadway station at 31st Avenue is an elevated station. It's high up. It's been renovated, but there are no elevators. The one at Steinway Street has no elevators, and it would end at 36th, I think 36th and Northern Boulevard, which is also a local station, which is about 5 or 6 blocks from Queens Plaza, in a very heavily trafficked area, not an area you want to walk in. And it would end in Sunnyside. So in our estimation, and the people who work at Kohler, the people who ride the bus from Roosevelt Island, we feel that this is completely inadequate, and it's taking away the main transit part. The people want to go to Queens Plaza. We have staff and residents from Kohler who are in wheelchairs, and are permanently disabled, they want to go to Queens Plaza. They want to transfer to other buses. They want to go to the accessible subway stations, which are all at Queens Plaza. Why we want to go send people all the way out of the way to end up on Northern Boulevard is beyond comprehension. The other thing is that the whole presentation that was presented at Kohler about 3 months ago was a disaster. The people there knew nothing about bus redesign. They were telling people, well, if you can't get to Queens Plaza, maybe you can change somewhere. The people from the MTA knew nothing about the plan. This plan had to be drawn up by some company far away. These people from MTA, 7 of them showed up and no one had one answer for any of the questions. The interactive map is great for people who can do interactive maps and figure this out and do this. Most of the residents at Kohler and the staff are not that computer literate to work on this. We had to take out paper and have people write their comments. The outreach does not exist on Roosevelt Island. Aside from one program at Kohler, they were supposed to do things for the rest of the community. They've never scheduled anything or shown up, even had a table or done anything to publicize the proposed changes. It is absolutely a disaster. Also, night service would be shorter. If the shifts end at midnight, there's barely a chance because the last bus is at 12 o'clock onto the island. The bus would leave the island and the people would have no way of getting from Kohler Hospital back to the subway station or to Queens Plaza. I think that this whole plan was not thought out. It was not done with any comprehensive measure. And I really think that, as you've all said, as Charlton and I have discussed this for months, this is a farce. It is an embarrassment to the MTA, and why they send out hundreds of pages of books that have every minuscule item you can think of, but nothing is a comprehensive plan. No one has ridden these routes. No one has sat on buses. No one has talked to the passengers. The notices that were published on the Q102 buses were so imaginative that the staff would look at them. They said they didn't know what it was, and they didn't have a phone to download a QR code. So really, I think this plan, and on behalf of the residents of Kohler Hospital, I'm the head of the auxiliary, I'm on the community board, and we all agree that this plan should be abandoned and we should just keep the 102 bus. And I thank you all for your hard work on this disaster of a program. Thanks, Charlton.
Thank you, Judy. And that area is a transit desert. When the subway shuts down, when the tram breaks down,
right,
sometimes the 102 is the only lifeline to get to that hospital. And one of the things they need more overnight bus service, more weekend service, and they need to fill the trips. If the MT is promising that they're going to give us so many buses in an hour, those are the buses that should be showing up. And this is happening all throughout Queens. So right now, we're going to give it up. We're going to allow...
I did want to add one point, if I may interject, and this is something that I want to reiterate that I'm very glad, Judy, that you brought up, and that is that I just want to make one thing very clear. It is exceptionally dangerous to assume that everyone in Queens is as able-bodied and has the options readily available to them as the people who are designing this redesign.
I will say
I just wanted to bring that up.
Jack, I will say one thing, that Kohler has many residents who live there. Kohler is their home. They get on a bus, they go to Astoria, they go to Queens. I've seen the residents from Kohler with their wheelchairs, their walkers, whatever, fully accessible. Yesterday, one of them was at in Broadway. I met her, and she had no problem getting on the 102 bus and getting to Astoria. Also, we're really cutting off the people in Queensbridge housing if we do this, because so many of the people who live in Queensbridge get on the bus at 40th Avenue and they'll get off. That's a very important lifeline for that community. And just to have the bus circumventing the whole project is really unfair to the residents of Queensbridge.
Absolutely. And I think the fact that they're even able to assume or just even bring up the notion that, oh, you can easily change, like we can do it, so you can do it too, is especially insulting. So I just want to leave it at that. I want to turn it over to our next speaker, Bibi Shah.
Before we get there, Jack, is there a way to eliminate? We have some trolls who are harassing people on the chat. Is there a way to kick them out?
Yeah, I'll take care of that in just a moment. This is why I'm stressing, if you're not here to speak, please watch this live event on YouTube.
Yep.
Please. Thank you very much.
His name is SYLAS. Have some trolls who are harassing people on the chat. Is there a way to kick them out?
I think we'll take care of that. So,
all right. So right now,
we're ready to turn it over to Bibi.
So we're gonna go live right now. Yes, to Bibi.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Bibi Shah. I'm representing the people in South Ozone Park. I just want to say about the final redesign plan that the residents in South Ozone Park are very dissatisfied, and we think that the decision makers of MTA are being very unreasonable and unfair in meeting the needs of our citizens in their plan. The MTA plan states that they want to make changes to increase connection reliability, speed up travel, and simplify services. But for us residents, we know that this is not true. What MTA is really doing is causing disservice and severe hardship to our citizens by completely changing routes in our area, putting citizens under stress to access public transportation. This plan is very unacceptable for our taxpaying community. MTA responsibility is to ensure that everyone is able to access the bus and should be able to get to where they want to go. But with their plan of replacing the Q10 that is running on 130th Street and Rockaway Boulevard with Q9 is not spacing out bus stops. It's completely changing routes and inflicting hardship on our people, especially those that are disabled and old. If this plan should be implemented, it will cause great suffering. Residents will be restricted. They will not be able to get proper access to the A train on Lefferts Boulevard to do their grocery shopping, to access the A train to go to their jobs, and to access the Kew Gardens train station. They will have to transfer from bus to bus, train to train to get to where they want to go. After calculations with me and my family, we noticed that we will have to pay 2 fares after transfers just to get to work, and 2 fares after transfer back home. That's 4 fares on a daily basis. And this is very unfair. Spending more time to commute to transfer is very unacceptable. The Q9 bus never comes on time, and it's always crowded, and it's very unfair to have to travel in crowded buses that is always late and doesn't travel the route that we need. Why is MTA changing routes and putting residents under stress to access public transportation? They should have a heart for those that are old and disabled, because they have needs too. They need access to public transportation to go to their doctor's appointment, especially to do their grocery shopping. We all need to survive, not only those people that are making these laws and have not traveled with public transportation. They do not feel that pressure when it's time to get up in the morning, to spend so long to commute to get to work and back home. We are exhausted, right? And we don't want to be more exhausted, because what happened in 2023, they removed the Q10 bus stop on 130th Street, and that caused severe stress on us. We had to walk one whole long avenue up to get to the next bus stop just to access this bus to get to where we want to go. My father is a security guard, and he works at night and wee hour in the morning. And for him to have to walk in the winter and to get home, it's very hard. Imagine if this bus here is taking out, the Q10 is replaced with a Q9, it will cause more hardship on my family, and especially the residents in South Ozone Park. There was petitions that was done. Residents have, you know, advocated for their needs, and we hope that MTA is doing something. They're not just taking our feedback and doing nothing about it. I really hope that they listen and they make changes to their new plan to meet the needs of the people. Because if they're changing this Q10 and they're replacing Q9, I feel it's not fair. They should be doing that in all communities. Let everyone feel the pressure so that we all can come out and protest about this. It is not fair for what we have to go through on a daily basis, and for the suffering that is yet to come if this plan is to be implemented. I just want to say that to the decision makers to please have a heart, especially for our old residents, especially for those who cannot walk far distances. Okay, we still are trying to survive. So we're asking you, we're pleading with you, please keep the Q10 bus stop the way it is, because many residents depend on it. And you have the petition and the information, the data there to know the truth. Okay, please do not falsify information in the surveys and think that the citizens do not see. We have been noticing everything. Okay, and we will keep on speaking to reporters until there are changes. We need to see changes. You should be doing this in the communities where residents are not paying their fair share, where they're riding the buses for free. You shouldn't be doing it in communities where people are paying their fair share. So we're asking MTA to please look into this and to please preserve the Q10 bus stop and that's how it is now. Thank you.
Hello, can everyone hear me? So what I need for you to do is, Jack, can you pull up the map? We need to know exactly, precisely what stops you're talking about on the map. So as Jack is pulling up the map, you can explain it to us, because the MT is watching our live stream and the planners are watching. So they need to see exactly where this is. I know that you probably spoke to electeds and you probably sent letters, but we just want the actual planners to see this. So can we zoom in? What's the street, the cross street again?
And Sutter Avenue in 130th Street. So if the Q10 is removed from there and it's replaced with the Q9 will be running on Lincoln Avenue towards Sutter Avenue. But the Q9 is running on a different route. It will not be running on the route on Rockaway Boulevard to access the A train. That means residents will have to take this Q9, come off at 134th and Liberty Avenue, take the Q110 to the A train. Now you're getting one transfer from bus to bus, but when you go to the train, you have to pay another fare.
Got it.
So that's too fair just to get to where you want to go.
So you meant the Q10, not Q110, Q10.
Q10, sorry.
Right. So, Jack, is there a way to see the bus stops that are being eliminated to zoom in from the old portion? Because that's what we need to see.
Are you talking about the old portion of the Q10?
Yeah, that the part that's being eliminated.
So I believe, I'm not sure if this was one of them. I don't think it'll really show here.
Because not everyone's familiar with this. That's why we're just doing a visual to show everyone on the Zoom call what we're talking about.
Yeah, so we're seeing this one's going to be eliminated at 126 and Rockaway Boulevard and 128th. And then on 130th, we're no longer going to have, I mean, we're still going to have the Sutter Avenue stop, but on the Q9, which is problematic. And then 133rd Avenue is going to be no stop.
And can you
There
tell
is going to
me
be a stop
how-
at 135th.
Hold on, Jack. Can you tell me how long the walk would be for residents? What's the added walking time? She's still on with us?
Yes. So when MTA removed that Q10 bus stop on 130th Street and Sutter Avenue in last year, it took residents about 20 to 25 minutes. That's if you're healthy and strong to get to the
Wow.
next bus stop. Now, residents that are old and disabled, they take double that time.
Right. Yeah.
And
Wow.
MTA is not taking into consideration that our residents, citizens in South Ozone Park, most of them are old. Okay?
And so you would prefer, I just want to clarify this because we are trying to summarize this. So you would prefer the Q10 to run as it is now?
Yes, we would prefer it because if it runs the way it is now, it resolves all problems. We will get
Okay.
access to the train. We will get access to Kew Gardens. We will get access to Liberty Avenue to do our grocery shopping, also to take the A train. And it will only we only have to pay one fare to go, one fare to come back home.
Right. And Jack, did you want to put up the posters now to show everyone? Why don't we just put up the posters? Because I know this area made the Channel 2 news. It was a big thing. There were protests held. Everyone went to the community board. People were crying. I mean, it was really sad. So let's pull up the protest poster that we have. So everyone can see this right now since we're on this. Because Ozone Park, we need you guys to come out. We're having a protest on July 24th. And what we're telling everyone is demand that the MT properly incorporate your needs into the plan by paying your fare, 290 fare and pennies. So, the MT thinks that they don't really care about our communities, but they're gonna find out real fast that we're not taking this. We're not gonna deal with this anymore. And we're also having a rally and press conference Wednesday, July 24th at 2:30 p.m outside the Queensborough President's office. We urge all of you to share this poster, and this poster will be on our social media threads. We'll be inviting all of you to speak. But what I need all of you on the Zoom call to do is call your elected officials because elected officials keep saying there's nothing they can do. No, they are the ones in the New York State Senate and Assembly who appoint the board members to the MTA. They're the ones who grant them permission. So if any elected officials telling you they cannot get involved or they don't know anything, it is BS. They have to do their jobs. And I hate to be this vocal, but it has to be done. They've got to get involved. And we've heard countless stories of elected officials refusing to get involved. And we will be having protests outside their individual offices to wake them up. Because guess what, guys? A lot of these electeds are out to lunch. It's up to us. This is our bus plan. So it's up to us to get involved and make a difference. So I don't want to keep going, but College Point right now, we wanted to go to College Point because that's a community where they've lost a lot of service. And we have one of our colleagues from College Point who's joining us tonight. His name is Eric. Eric, are you on the line, Eric, on Zoom? Okay, Eric's.
Yeah, I'm not seeing Eric at the moment. We
Okay,
do have a
do
couple
we?
hands raised, though.
Oh, we do. So let's go to them.
All right, our first one, I know that Gary Hewitt's been waiting for some time. So,
Okay, let's go to him.
all right, excuse me. Gary Hewitt, please take it away. Gary, you there? All right, I'm guessing Gary. Oh yeah. Bear with me. All right, Gary, you there?
Yes, yes. Okay, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. All right. So first, great job, everyone, for putting this together tonight. I'm glad I'm able to participate. Sort of wanted to echo the same sentiments that BB Shaw uh, just gave us. And I'm saying this as a resident, guys. I've been in South Ozone Park since 1979. It's always been a transportation desert. Right? So actually, the MTA's proposal, it's not just eliminating bus stops; it's eliminating a whole leg of the Q10's route. Right. So the Q10 actually it serves two corridors. It serves. I saw David's comment in the chat. Thank you, David. I've met David several times. But so the Q10 it serves two corridors, two lanes actually. So it's a lane where it goes straight down Lefferts Boulevard from the Kew Gardens area, the Kew Gardens neighborhood. But then there's another Q10 that runs down Lefferts Boulevard. But then
Hold on 1 second. Jack, can you pull up the map as he's talking of the Q10 and the bus stop? So as he's speaking, we can see the visuals. Sorry about that.
Sure. Okay. Okay, beautiful. Beautiful, right? So yeah, it already runs down Lefferts Boulevard. It goes straight down Lefferts Boulevard, all the way to the airport. At least it would go down into the airport before all this construction that's happening now at JFK, right? But this route is also it's bifurcated. So there's another bus that will make a left on Rockaway Boulevard and go further east into South Ozone Park, right? And then turn off on 130th Street and take that other route down 130th Street and service that part of South Ozone Park, which is already not serviced greatly by buses, right? So, David, sorry you said Q37. Q37 has always had horrible service, always, right? And now that they added the Q37 running into Racino, into Resorts World to service that, it makes it a much longer commute if someone's just simply trying to get to the E or the F train from this area, right? The Q service does that. Sorry, the Q10 service does that much more efficiently. That's number one. Number two, the Q7, again, since 1979, guys, that service has never been great. And a challenge now, if you're forcing Q10 riders to migrate over to the Q7, that's also not a great proposal, and here's why. That Q7 bus, that bus services about a good 5 to 6 schools in the mornings and in the afternoon, guys. So you could be standing at a Q7 bus stop and have two Q7s pass you by because there's no room for them to pick you up in the morning time during rush hour, which happens quite frequently, several times during the week. So there's no possible way that either the Q7 or the Q9 can effectively handle overflow if you eliminated that Rockaway Boulevard leg of the Q10. So I've been to several MTA meetings, just continuing to reiterate that to the planning team to let them know that that lane, that bus, it shouldn't be tampered. If anything, the buses that need to be tampered with is the Q7 to add more buses on that route to properly and adequately service the schools that are right now being underutilized, as well as the Q9, which kind of like disappears in the middle of the day. The Q9 reduces itself to like showing up like only twice an hour compared to the Q10 that's running every 14 minutes. There's a Q10 that's coming to pick you up on that Lefferts Boulevard lane. So I just wanted to hammer home that point on why the Q37 and the Q7, Q9 cannot, those three buses, even if you combine them, it cannot replace what the Q10 does. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, for speaking. And I think that was better for all of us to visualize it on the map. I know the MT bus planners are listening. in on this. So they hopefully they have this. My advice to all of you, and I definitely will exchange numbers and information with all of you. I hope you will come to our press conference or rally, and we've got to get the residents hyped up, but we've got to get our elected officials, we've got to wake them up, because I hate to say it, but a lot of these staffers who work in these offices, they don't live in our communities. So for them, it goes in one ear, comes out the other way. You do all these email exchanges, and then nothing's getting to where it needs to go. So, you guys need courtesy letters from the elected saying that you want the Q10 saved. They have to show up to this public hearing to speak up, to say, we do not want, the Q10 eliminated in your area. They've got to come to these public hearings, because it's going to mess up people's property values. It's going to cause delays, more delays. And we all know the A train is bad. Don't even get me started on the A train. It's a disaster. And then there are people in that area who work inside the airport, right? Yep. All right. So, yep. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And, we'll put my number in the chat for those of you who need to call me. And you can call us on we have our Passengers United corporate number. You could just leave a message there and we'll get back to you. Thank you so much, Gary. Really appreciate your time. Is there any hands up?
Yeah, I saw George has been waiting for a while. George,
all right,
you want
George,
to say anything?
You want to say anything?
Okay, you guys hear me?
Yes, George.
Okay, so one of the things that we just have that we have to just be careful of is whenever we're calling for anything to remain the same as it is, we have to double check. And really, this is why it's so important to have these statistics, because we want to make sure that we're not the people who are benefiting from this proposal. So for example, the Q9 goes to Jamaica, which is a different area than the Q10. So we want to make sure that out of nowhere, we're not the people who are like, oh, nice, I get a ride to Jamaica. And then all of a sudden at the last minute, you're taking that away from them. Because over in the Staten Island redesign, the express bus, but there was no local bus redesign. It was only express bus. And one of the issues that happened, because it was the first redesign period, there were a whole bunch of issues. And what happens was that, the MTA made some changes, and some people liked it, some people didn't. And the people who didn't like it were like, put it back the way it was, put it back, put it off Lexington back onto Fifth, put it on, or put it on from Fifth back to Lexington, or, put this one back to here, put this one back to here. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the people like, wait a second, those people who wanted it on Lexington are happy, but I actually liked it on Fifth, and you just pulled it out, from under me. So we want to make sure that in the case of, something like the Q9 versus the Q10, that the people, that both alternatives are presented to the community. Would you like, the Q9, or would you like the Q10? Maybe some combination of both, half Q9, half Q10, whatever it is. And the amount of expected riders, population density and existing ridership and potential ridership and everything, that all needs to be on the table for everybody to have that discussion.
Right. So I want to say something. So here's the thing. The MTA has been putting community against community. And why is it they have to cut a bus route, right? They're basically consolidating routes, cutting routes. Guys, this is not a bus redesign. These are called glorified budget cuts, as I've been saying. And this is coming from me, Charlton D'Souza, president of Passengers United. It's a disgrace. And so if they had worked with the communities and their planners had worked with the bus drivers and everything, we could have come up with a good plan. But no, the MTA says, oh, we know what we're doing. And this is the thing. So, the Q10 is needed in that community because of the long walks and everything. But at the same time, maybe the MTA should have an additional route there, right? Because that's what a bus redesign is supposed to be, more service, not less.
And one other small thing. So regarding the three-legged transfers, this is exactly the reason why those three-legged transfers need to be published in advance. So she's mentioning that, if she needs to get the Q, the Q9 to a crosstown route like the Q112 or, or whatever the case may be, most likely I would guess that they would probably program that in as a three-legged transfer so that you're not paying twice for the same ride. But that's not officially put in writing and published. So, with that not in writing, she has to kind of generally assume that she's going to have to pay again. Practically speaking, that probably won't happen. But if it's not in writing, there's nothing to protect you from the fact that it might happen. So, that's why it's very important to, if we do this change, and again, how many people are going to have to make that transfer? Is it 100 people? Is it 1,000 people? How many people are expected to go to Jamaica versus, Kew Gardens, and like all that needs to be published. I mean, that's the key. There's
So
very little
that's
transparency.
why we put that in our policy position letter. And what we're going to ask all the community members who are on this call tonight is to sign on to that letter. We want all of your civics, all of your community boards to do that. Jack has just told me time is running out. Okay, that's breaking news. So it's now 8:27. We got to keep this meeting moving along. So are there any other speakers who haven't spoken?
Anyone who does want to speak? All right, I'll pass the mic over to Shina Hewitt. Please forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong.
You said it correctly, thank you. Appreciate you all putting this meeting together. I also live on the 130th Street and off of Rockaway Boulevard route for the Q10. And I think I just wanted to add, because my sentiments are the same as those who spoke tonight. I just wanted to add that it's a disappointment that we weren't included in the plan, because then we wouldn't have to have all of this upset and then have to organize and do so much back work and leg work after the fact. But we could have all kind of talked about what enhancements should have looked like, because there's routes that should have been enhanced for years now. I've also lived in this area for all of my life, actually, so 30 plus years. And I would have liked to see routes like the Q7 and the Q9 become better, because the Q10 is one of the routes that I rely on very heavily to get to the A train, as well as the Kew Garden stop. I just wanted to add that, the residents that live in this area, including my family, like my mother's 70 plus, and she, her doctors are right on the Lethbridge routes. She doesn't walk well, and where it's really a nuisance and an inconvenience that this would be a proposed plan without including the community who actually lives in this area. I hope that it stays the same as well. I think that it works well the way that it is. Like I said, I still would like to see some enhancements in the Q9 and the Q7. The Q9 pulls off before its time very frequently. We're not including the uptick in an influx of the population that's over here. This plan has been for years, and as of recent, migrants and shelters, there's additional shelters being built over here specifically for the influx in population. And they're not included in this plan. And we need to take that into consideration. There should be an additional route or some additional express route or something that we can figure out to actually get the population to conveniently travel and safely travel around this neighborhood. And that's a plan that I would like to discuss with the MTA. And yeah.
So one of the
appreciate your time. Thank you.
things, Shauna, that we, Mrs. Hewitt, that we're trying to do is right now our main goal is to suspend the public hearing. And that is something that I believe we, were you here in the beginning when we read the letter? Yes, okay, good. So here's the thing, if the MT goes through with this public hearing, they can do whatever they want at that point. So we're trying to get that suspended right now. That's goal number one. But our backup plan is that, we might all have to come together and file a lawsuit if this plan goes into effect, because it's not taking into effect the shelters like you just mentioned, which has been really it's the buses on the Q6, the Q7, the Q10 all over Southeast Queens has been packed. People cannot get on. People have to wait 3 or 4 buses before they can get on. And so what happens if buses are now running on 15-minute headways under this new plan? And I'm sure you guys have canceled buses every day, trips that don't go out. So we all need to work together. We need all of you to come out to this press conference, contact your electeds. And I'm sure you guys have all reached out to your electeds already, but we need them not only to listen to what we're saying, but we need a plan of action from them. They've got to issue a courtesy letter to the MT on letterhead saying that we do not support the elimination of the Q10 bus. That has to be sent to the MT, all the planners, and that is something that we'll work with you guys and help you guys on. I really wish, and I'm going to say something tonight. We really wish we had done more with the Q10 at Passengers United. We've been so overwhelmed with all the other routes, and we know you guys are great community organizers. You guys are holding it down there. You're doing a great job. So any way that we can help you guys, we're down there. Invite us. We'll be there. And we're having the protest on the 24th, the $2.90 pennies protest. We're also having a rally outside the borough president's office. We need to let everyone know to come out there early. And, we're going to have to do what we're going to have to do and I think we're really going to have to steamroll these electeds and push them into our plan and I hate to say this, guys, a lot of neighborhoods are losing bus service because secretly there are other plans planned. And many of these elected officials, and I'm not naming names, but there are organizations out there who get money from Uber and Lyft, who are funding our electeds. And the reason why bus service in certain communities are being undervalued or cut is so that these Ubers and Lyfts can make a profit. We all know what's going on. Come on. Okay, so they can have a monopoly over our neighborhoods. It seems weird. A big route like the Q10 would be cut from that area. That's crazy. Oh, you're muted. Go ahead.
I was actually just talking to my brother, but I was like, that's an interesting concept because even for where I live, it's very convenient to even get to the airport with the Q10 bus route. But without the route that they want to eliminate, it wouldn't make sense for me to travel to where? Lefferts and Rockaway Boulevard to get to the airport. That's either way is like, no matter what, whether I'm trying to go east or west, I have to go out of my way first to come backwards. And I'll be doing the same thing with the airport, taking away that Q10 bus route, which would force me to, or definitely be more compelling to take an Uber than to have to go out of my way to get on a bus with luggage.
Yeah, it's crazy, but we're with it. And please, guys, go to our website in our email list and put your emails in there and your names on our contact list. Also, here through the chat, and so that we can have your information and we can all be in touch. But we're on Facebook, Passengers United. We're on Twitter. We're on YouTube. We're on X. So please join our social media pages. Yes, Jack.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're on all social media platforms. Yeah, as Charlton said, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. There are, and of course, everything's on our website. You can get involved. Please join our mailing list so we can stay in touch. There are many ways to get involved and everything there.
We have a concern from a resident that I want to read. It's a very important concern. So we just heard Lucille Songai from the MTA informed residents that they will be given 2 minutes to speak, which we already know. But the MT board members or staff that will be hearing the comments at the meeting will not be issuing a response, just so you know. So it's basically like talking to yourself, basically. So now I want to read some comments that's come in from a member from College Point and Bayside. So I'm just going to read this. Is it okay if I read it for them? The QM5 835 should operate down Horace Harding Expressway instead of Union Turnpike. The sections of Queensboro Hill along Horace Harding are very far from the subway and LIRR in Queensboro Hill. In particular, was served by the X51 until 2010. The MTA proposed running those routes on I-495 directly, similar to the QM8 Super Express. And the MTA claimed that customers didn't like the plan when what they really didn't like was the 90-minute headways. The QM5 can even serve Corona and Leafrock and provide off-peak there. So that was one comment. And then the other comment was from College Point resident who said College Point should be served by an extension of the QM10 40 since they run out of College Point anyway. This would provide direct access to Manhattan from an area which does not have any LIRR subway service. And then the other comment was the MT tried different ways of combining the QM1040 with other routes, notably the QM1242, when what is really needed is an extension to College Point, and the MT just threw up their hands and left it as is, which does not solve anything. The QM444 should also be extended to Fresh Meadows to boost ridership and provide more coverage in that section of Queens. The Norton Boulevard corridor should also maintain express bus service. The QM3 can be rerouted, extended to downtown since the Long Island Railroad and 7 train don't run downtown, or possibly combined with either the QM10 or the QM40. All options need to be on the table to preserve express bus access on Norton Boulevard. These 3-leg transfers need to be publicized. That would likely be a 3-leg transfer. And for the Q9, Q112. So guys, we've read those. And so why don't we go to the bill that I showed you guys yesterday that we were trying to get passed in Albany. Is Farhan still here? And is Carl here? Or Alan? Alan, why don't we talk about that bill?
I think Carl should talk about it.
Okay, Carl, we don't know where he is. We're trying to find him.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, go ahead, guys.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I'll discuss the
please mention that you're a board member as well.
Oh yes, I'm a board member, Passengers United. Regarding a 3-legged transfer, me and Alan were discussing for some time, and I wrote something up about this. Having a time-based policy.
Can we see the bill, the last bill that I sent you last night? Farhan Sharif, I think, has it, but if we can pull it up.
Yeah, I'll just mention it very quickly. I have it. Give me just a few seconds. Okay, I'll tell you the exact name of the bill number. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, I don't have it in front of me right now. I sent it out today. There's a bill in the state Senate for one additional transfer. What we're trying to do is me and Alan were discussing for a few years is having a time-based transfer policy where for a time period of like 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours and 30 minutes, a passenger that pays a fare would get a time-based transfer. They would transfer as many times as possible for up to 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours and 30 minutes. Because there's a number of places where people need more than one transfer. You know, if you're going into borough, if you're traveling, say, various parts of the Bronx, and then you go to Queens or you go into Brooklyn, and some people don't like taking the subway or they can't take the subway, they probably need more than one transfer. So we're saying if the MTA should implement a policy of a time-based transfer policy to change the bill that the state Senate has to revise it, instead of just giving one additional transfer, just make it a time-based transfer. You'd have a limited transfers for up to a time period of 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours and 30 minutes. That's a summary of what we want to revise that bill that's now in the Senate from only one additional transfer to a time-based transfer policy.
All right, is it ready, Farhan?
Yes, this is the one. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. You can read it, Farhan.
Okay. The section 1266 of the Public Authorities Law is amended by adding a new subdivision 3-B to read as follows. 3B. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, the authority shall establish a two free transfers policy, provided, however, the authority shall not pay any costs or expenses related to the two free transfers policy from its operating or capital budgets and may only implement the two free transfers policy with funds appropriated to it by the state of New York for such purpose. The two free transfers policy may be amended from time to time. Such policy shall provide any person who pays for a single fare or ride with at least two automatic free transfers at no additional cost between any subway and bus or between buses that are owned and operated by the authority. Such transfers shall be valid for 2 hours from the time such fare or rate is collected by the authority at a transit facility.
So what I wanted to do was show you guys with the Bronx bus redesign what the tariffs look like, the fare tariffs. That should have been in the Queens bus redesign plan and is not. And I believe Alan had that, right, Alan? Was it Alan, I believe, or?
Had what?
The fare tariffs of the Bronx. Oh, George had that, I think.
George had it and Carl had it at one time. It's
Yeah,
like it's like a 200-page document.
Right,
And
we
it was-
just want to show the part where it lists the Bronx routes to show people what it looked like.
I don't know if it's available right now.
Okay, it's not available. All right, Jack doesn't have it. But we'll post that up on, oh, actually, wait. Yeah, we'll post it up on our social media threads and show you guys why didn't the MTA post this up for the Queens bus redesign, right? They didn't do that. And so that is an issue. But I think what we need to do is we need to have, and I'm going to say this carefully, if you pay $290, it should be unlimited for the day, so that like this, because many Queens bus riders take two buses right now to get to the subway. So with this bus redesign coming, that's, it might happen. Now, people are probably saying, well, why should we have to do that? We want to keep our bus the way it is. Yes, but for the bigger part of the redesign, some communities and some of us will lose bus service. Everyone's not going to get everything they want. But what we're saying to the MTA is you cannot charge people. You have to have a fare structure in place. And that's why with these transfers, I'm a little hesitant because sometimes transfers on the programming of these machines do not work. Whereas if you pay $290 and you have like an unlimited thing for the day or something like that, like unlimited transfer,
Charles,
that works.
can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
The problem with $290 for a day is you're really cutting the fare in half, and that would have a big impact on the MTA. What Carl was suggesting was you limit it to like 2.5 hours, so you would still have to pay two fares if you're going to work and coming back from work. But if you're doing a bunch of short errands, and you can accomplish everything in 2.5 hours, you'd only be paying one fare. The MTA traditionally has opposed that because they claim, oh, people would make round trips. But right now, if you have parallel routes, there are plenty of ways that people are now making round trips with one fare. They make it sound like right now it's impossible to do a round trip with one fare, but it's very possible, especially in Manhattan. So Carl and I really don't feel that the MTA would lose any money by allowing unlimited transfers within 2.5 hours, the money they would lose they would make up by people making additional trips. So that's one reason I don't like the bill that was shown, because it says there's a stipulation in there that says the MTA shall not provide any funds from the capital and operating budgets, and it should be additional funds should pay for it. The MTA has no idea how much would be needed. So that's really the problem with the bill. That restriction really shouldn't be in there of how to pay for it.
Sorry guys, I misspoke. Yeah, so I do agree with Paul and Alan. So within a 2 hour limit. Yep. And like this, it helps, especially during service disruptions. Or sometimes the A train's not running in a certain station. And that also has to be considered as part of the bus redesign. They're doing a lot of work on the A train. Half the time, and the A train is really bad, guys. It's always breaking down. That's like the worst train in the system. Everybody knows. So we don't want to. We want to keep moving on here. We want to thank BB Shaw and everyone here. But I believe we have a comment. Karina Nieves, a board member at Passengers United, wanted to make a comment. Karina, go ahead, please. Karina Nieves. Jack, is she on?
I just sent a request on you.
Okay, no problem. All right. Maybe
By the way, I
she's
have the
busy.
tariff up.
Yeah, we saw the tariff. Yep, we're reading it. But we wanted the one for the Bronx thing. That's what they were looking for. I don't know what page it's on. They're gonna have to find it. Oh, right there. There we go. Is that it? Is that it, guys? Call Alan. Page 44?
Yep, this is.
That's it. Okay.
So the Bronx starts on page 43, but the whole thing, it's Appendix 1, bus routes with special transfer privileges.
Right, but those are the Bronx routes. Here we go. There, is that it? Brooklyn, Queens. That's not it. Keep going. There we go, Bronx. So you see, for the Bronx bus redesign, this is what the MTA did. Now, the problem is they didn't advertise it. Bronx residents still don't know that this even exists. And this is why we have issues with the MTA. They can't even do this. Karina's back. Karina, she cannot mute, she's saying. Karina, going once.
I did want to briefly explain what the MTA should have been doing from
working, Jack. Her button,
yeah, let me try again. I don't have the ability. Are you pressing unmute? Are you getting the request?
Yeah, Karina, just leave it alone. Let Jack do it manually.
I don't have the ability to. Oh, here we go. I saw you
there you go.
unmuted. I'll send it again. Maybe it'll look like this one.
Okay, she's not coming on? Yeah, we got to keep moving. Karina, can you just send it to us in text, please? Because I know Karina's been very active with the Q37, and she's also rides the Q10. And I know she reached out to the borough president's office, as did we, and we did not. The borough president's staff member said he couldn't make it today, which doesn't surprise us. And that's another office that we all need to talk to. So her Zoom isn't working. She left a few comments on the chat. And we'll get back to that. I don't know where her comments are, so okay. And do we have any other hands up for people who have not gone yet?
So I just found Karina's comments in the chat. So the last thing that I'm seeing was from 837. Karina said that we need to target our 2 council members for the area overseeing the Q10. Shulman and Speaker Adrian Adams said that they need to speak up. I'll add in Joanne Ariola as well in the mix.
Yes, they really do need to speak up. And by the way, guys, the Q10, so the private, for those of you who are old like me, you probably remember the private bus routes like Green Bus Lines, Triborough, Jamaica. So what happened was when the MT Bus Company was formed, they're still getting, in some cases, money from the city of New York, although Alan told me that that is subject to change and the city could have gone back on that deal. Alan, did you want to say something on that?
I didn't. What I said was they probably made some deals. Right now, as it stands, the city must reimburse the MTA for any losses on MTA bus company routes. But now, since
and
the routes are going to be changed, it's going to affect the financing. So I think they've already made some deals how it will affect the financing. They're just not publicizing it.
Right, and they should have publicized that because the Q10 route is an MT Bus Company route. Q37 is an MT Bus Company route. And I think what we should have done was come up with a list on our website of the MT Bus Company routes and New York City Transit routes. You know something, we'll work on that and we'll send that to all the organizers so you guys have that list. Sorry about that.
Are there any instances where they're combining an MTA Bus Company route with a New York City Transit route?
The Q110 and the Q36. They're also doing some changes because they're merging that with the Q36. That's the Belmont Park corridor.
Okay.
Yep. And so we will come up with a list of that. That's actually very important. So we'll come out for the definitions, the route definitions, so you guys know. And then the other thing is it's now 8:54. So has there anyone here who would like to speak who hasn't spoken? Please raise your hand.
And if not, I'm not sure if we have time for this. But if we do have time for this, I'd like to just briefly go over some of the metrics that the MTA should have been using and what they really should have been doing from the start. Because I did have some conversations with some of the staffers at one of the MTA board meetings, and I said that I was going to be getting those metrics over to them.
All right, let's just show the video real quick and then we'll do last comments.
All right, so what you're about to see is a quick 3-minute thing. So this is from our training modules for our new volunteers. So we want to make sure that everyone who does volunteer, and we do invite all of you to join us if you wish, but this is from one of the training modules specifically around equity and how do we define equity. And as you'll see, this is actually what closer to what the MTA should have been doing from the get-go and using examples from other transit agencies in the country that have actually gotten it right. And a lot of this is based off of a presentation that was given at the Transportation Research Board's conference specifically on transportation equity. This was back in 2021, and the Transportation Research Board is a kind of a national think tank on many of these issues. So here it is. I'm just gonna leave it at that. You'll see what they should have been doing, and if any of them are still on at this point, I really hope you're paying attention, because this is what you should have been doing from the start, and I'm strongly emphasizing it. If I were you, ideally, I'd go back to the drawing board. I'd go back to when you had nothing and start over.
The specific ways in which equity should be measured are dependent on each situation. However, the same guiding principles should be kept throughout. First, as Anna Gartzman, Director of Strategic Research of the MBTA says, put the equity measures on the same plane as everything else. Define the populations of interest, which will be subjective for each situation, as well as the impacts that transportation planning, policy, and operation decisions would have on those populations. Focus on both the short-term and long-term impacts and goals. The short-term goals should be about harm reduction, while the long-term goals should focus on building a better system. For any initiative, follow these steps. Before beginning the initiative, clearly define its objectives. Determine who the populations of interest, the transit-critical populations, are. This changes based on the context. Only then, measure how the objective of the initiative would be satisfied for each population. Specify any vague terms. Understand that the answer for one population may, and will most likely, be different than that of another. Also,
And this is what's especially important, that they've clearly shown that they understand.
Their needs bear at least the same importance as the needs of the majority, especially if they are more vulnerable. Do not undermine the needs of the minority because they are in the minority. Let's use the redesign of a bus network to illustrate how this process of measuring equity should be done. Before beginning the initiative, clearly define its objectives. The goal of a bus network redesign is to improve bus service. Determine who the populations of interest, the transit-critical populations, are. In the context of redesigning a bus network, the transit-critical populations are people of color, people in low-income households, seniors, and people with disabilities. Only then, measure how the objective of the initiative would be satisfied for each population. What would it mean to have better bus service for blank? Fill in the blank for each population individually. So you would answer, what would it mean to have better bus service for people of color? And so on. Specify any vague terms. What does better mean in the context of redesigning a bus network? A better network is competitive with car travel. Then answer the question of what that means for each population individually. Understand that the answer for one population may, and will most likely, be different than that of another. The competitiveness formula is different for seniors and people with disabilities than it is for able-bodied people. The measurement system needs to account for what it means for transit to be competitive for these groups, even if those with disabilities make up less of the total population. All throughout, make sure to properly engage and empathize with the public and, particularly, the populations of interest to gather data. We'll touch on more of that in the next module.
So that's just kind of a basic understanding of what the MTA should have been doing with the Queens Bus Network redesign, or for that matter, any of their initiatives, especially those that are large scale and that have this kind of impact on the public. And I think, like, ideally, they would start over because, as I mentioned earlier, if they don't have this set out from the beginning, then everything they're doing from that point on is without that mindset and without keeping that in mind. So this is, I think, what the MTA is failing to realize. Charlotte, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I wanted to say something, guys. I'm reading the comments, and I just want to say that the people who live in Ozone Park, they know their buses better than some of the people who are making comments. And so we have to be very respectful to every community, and that some of the comments being made does not reflect that of Passengers United. So we want to respect everyone's community, because if those people lose the Q10 bus service there in that community, it's going to be devastating to them. And seniors will have to walk along. So again, we need to be very very understanding and sympathetic to every community, and just
Absolutely.
because we don't live in those communities, and some of the people commenting don't live there, so let's be understanding of that.
Yeah, and we also want to set an example for what the MTA should be doing, which is really not only
Oh, wait,
empathizing
wait.
with them, with the
Gary,
public.
Gary Hewitt wants to make a comment. Gary, go ahead.
Good. No, I'm good. I think it's George that wants to make a comment.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
No,
George,
no,
you
but
want to say
Gary,
anything?
Gary, wait,
Okay.
wait. Before we go to George, let's go to Gary for a second.
Hold on.
Gary,
Yes.
how do you feel about some comments being made, Gary? Because people are saying things about the Q37 on you. So, I mean, obviously the Q10 is desperately needed for that community. I've been in that community. I know that the importance of the Q10 is needed. The Q37 will not work for you guys, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And actually, it's okay. I know David. David and I, we spoke in at community board meetings before, and we've been to some of these MTA meetings. But yes, uh, Charlton, you're 100% right. The I guess the only way to truly appreciate the Q10 is to live in this neighborhood. Again, just being here since the late '70s, right? I remember just growing up as a kid, and I went to school in Astoria, right? So that was at least an hour commuting back and forth to high school for those 4 years. I've had school friends did not want to come visit me because it was like it's impossible to get to, right? You live far from a train. The only way to get to a train where we're at is to take a bus, at least a 30-minute bus ride, So just cutting off again, just cutting off that leg. It's almost like severing like a finger, like an artery in the community, especially for a critical artery like Rockaway Boulevard. The only buses that service Rockaway Boulevard within this particular stretch are the Q10 and the Q7. And again, the Q7 is just very disadvantaged as far as its time. It's not beholding to any schedule. We do have an influx of people that are moving into community, right? There's new houses that's been built right around JFK, and even the new proposal I feel for the Q9 to sort of like replace a portion of the Q10. It doesn't make sense because the proposal for the Q9 doesn't bring it into the airport like the Q10 does, right? So I'm really prayerfully hoping that we are able to postpone this meeting and definitely go back to some drawing boards with the MTA. So I'm looking forward to the fight into the contributions from everyone on this call and all the residents that live in the surrounding areas. It's great to be engaged like this, and I'm thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you. We thank you for coming on tonight. We really appreciate you. BB Shaw wanted to respond to some of the comments made in the chat regarding the Q37 and Q10. BB, take it away, please.
Yes, I just want to say that it will be difficult for those old and disabled members of the community to walk to get to the Q37. Okay, so that's something that is real. MTA decision makers are not living in our neighborhood. They're not living at the location of our houses to know how far we have to walk away from our home to the bus stop. And to walk, for these people to walk to get to Q37, it will not work. Okay, that is all that I have to say. But I want you to call on Richard David.
Oh, Richard David's here. Okay. Richard, come on. We've been trying to reach Richard David forever. Where is he? Come on, Richard. Jack, get him on. He's a district leader.
Hey, good night. Thanks
Hey, we
for
finally see you, Rich, man. What's good? Good to see you on this chat.
thank you. And thanks to Phoebe and Farhan for keeping this conversation going and for inviting me tonight. What Bibi said is absolutely true. the experience that she faced and our neighbors faced in South Ozone Park really reveals the disconnect that a lot of people are expressing between the MTA and our community. I'm Guyanese, and Bibi is Guyanese, and a lot of folks here are Guyanese. And there is this narrative that people continue to paint that new people are moving into the neighborhood, new things are being built. That's such a false narrative. A lot of the people who live in South Ozone Park are second and third generation Guyanese that have lived here since the 1960s and have called this neighborhood home. And this, for some folks, they're interacting with this community perhaps for the first time. And so you fall into this trap of being this perpetual outsider. We know our neighborhood and we've chosen to invest in businesses here and we've chosen to live here after our parents and their parents. And it's really an injustice to frame the conversation around new New Yorkers and how to serve them best. And so I like to really establish a baseline of who we're talking about before we talk about how best to serve these people. And the city planning just revealed their latest set of data that continues to show Guyanese are the predominant group in this area. And that's been the case 10 years ago in that census. In fact, it showed it's the second largest foreign-born immigrant group anywhere in Queens, and the census before that, and the census before that, and you can go all the way back. And so when we get to this conversation about redesigning the bus routes, I think the other area that we can kind of bridge, I think what's a growing divide between the community and the MTA is just acknowledging this shared goal of wanting to modernize the bus routes. There are routes that are potentially duplicative. There are routes where we're speeding up the buses which serve both MTA and I assume it would, if done correctly, serve riders, especially as the MTA is looking to, I'm sure they're going to be looking to raise fares even more now that congestion pricing is not on the table. The problem with some of the proposals that they've come up with, and I'm being vague because I don't want to be specific. I think it's too early to be specific, but I think that this divide between the community, the MTA, it's not gonna get smaller, and it's not gonna get easier through these continued attempts that reflect this approach where it's hard to understand how they're making these decisions. It's hard to understand what factors they're using block by block, because when Bibi says the 37 isn't going to serve older adults and those with disabilities, the reality is it's very hard to know if MTA surveyed or talked to anyone on the ground, because it's a little unfair to say that they don't live in our neighborhood, because they may, we don't know that, and they can't live in every neighborhood to make these decisions, but there is good data out there. And I want to support some kind of baseline that's an educated decision-making process, but it has to also include voices like Bibi's and the neighbors and the current riders. And I think when you look at the map and you look at expressways, and I put that in quotes, like Lefferts Boulevard, and wanting to streamline bus services down Lefferts Boulevard by consolidating the lines, on one hand, it looks like a good idea, but the reality is, if you're a resident in that neighborhood, you're not living on Lefferts Boulevard. That's your last choice because it's so busy. You're choosing to live on the outskirts. And that's why the buses on the outskirts, not the ones on the thoroughfare, serve more residents. And so some of these basic assumptions that I think are built into how they're doing their planning, they just don't make sense, and they don't match what the lived experiences of the residents are who live there and use these buses. And so I really think that their data, I think if they can be a little more transparent in some of their data and their decision making, it would help to bridge this divide, and I'm yet to see that. And I want to thank you, Passengers United and Carlson and everyone here just for continuing this conversation. I see Karina's on as well, because these are the same voices we see in many rooms, and they'll probably continue to be. So there's a lot of weight on our voices to make sure that we are being accurate, but also that we are we're figuring this out with the MTA. They can't do it alone, and hopefully their partnership or their attempts at partnership is going to mean something.
I have a question I want to ask you, Mr. David. So the question I want to ask you, will you support our letter? Because we've written, our board members, all of us have put together a 3-page letter with all the factors detailing, and we'll send it to you if you missed it in the beginning. We did read the letter. It's something that we need the district leaders' support. We need all the electeds to stand behind us on this letter. Because one thing that's not being talked about here is that bus routes are being eliminated, or they're being curtailed, or they're being combined. Property values are going to go down in some of the areas, and that's going to be devastating. We didn't even look at that aspect of it. And so that is worrisome, and that is something where we need the electeds. We beg them to get involved. Jack had a question he wanted to ask you. So Jack, take it away. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's not as much of a question. I just wanted to add on to a point that you made, and that is, first of all, the MTA doesn't have real defined metrics for what they're doing. I've been asking them why they're making these changes, why they're eliminating these bus stops, and I told them the standards that they had back in 2010, their own standards, the MTA, were 750 feet apart for local routes. Now we have local routes, and the standards that they had are actually less than what it is now. The average bus stop spacing is actually greater than the 2010 standards, but now they want to expand that to, 1,100 something feet, 1,151, which is far greater. And when I asked them about it, all they said is, oh, it's a new standard, as if that meant everything in the world, which just shows that they have nothing to base what they're doing off of. They have no established metrics, nothing to evaluate equity, which I explained earlier on. And they admitted to me that they don't have that figured out when they claim that this plan is going to be improving equity around the region. And as you explained, it absolutely isn't. It's just insulting to think that we have a group of planners and a new demographic, and it just really infuriates me that it just shows that I have a feeling that this is not just accidental. I have a feeling that a lot of this is intentional, that they're intentionally underserving these environmental justice communities and these transit deserts and these minority communities, because they're trying to pay extra attention to those who are more like them, who are more able-bodied and willing and able to adapt to these changes than the actual native New Yorkers are. And I think you raised a very good point there.
So yes, you did, Richard David. So I do want to make a comment to all of you, because we're getting comments. So BB Shaw wanted us to put the Q10. So what we're doing, so I just want to clarify, the letter that we submitted today that we read to you guys in the beginning, that letter is to cancel the public hearings. That's goal number 1. Because if those meetings go through on the 24th, we're screwed. Once those meetings go through, it's a legal process. The MT can say they did their thing. And so what we want to do is we're adding, between now and Monday, we're going to be compiling all of your concerns into our final Queens Bus Redesign report. And we will mention the Q10, and we will call you all up to work with you guys on the specific concerns mentioned here, and we will put that into our final report for Queens. So that is to address the concerns brought up by BB Shaw and Richard Davis. I know he's going to have a list of them for us, the Q112 especially, and I believe the 51, which is going through his district, which is being curtailed. We understand that Carl wanted to make some comments and he didn't get a chance to talk. Call, keep it quick, Call. Because we gotta wrap up.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to bring up, I know I mentioned some
But
things about
Carl, we need to understand that every community is different. And
yes.
so the residents who live in their communities, they know it better than anyone else.
Okay, I'm just very familiar with the intersection of Liberty and Lefferts. It's very congested. I look at the bus stops for the Q10, it's very overcrowded. So what I'm suggesting is if the Q37 went straight down Rockaway Boulevard between 111 and 130th Street and down 130th Street like the Q10 does, that the 111th Street Liberty Avenue is less congested than Liberty and Lefferts, and it's a faster ride to Kew Gardens via 111th Street than via Lefferts Boulevard. And I drive on those streets very often. So, and a lot of times I don't like driving up Lefferts Boulevard. I drive up 111th Street because it's much quicker. So I think that if we could shift the Q37, have it work, go from 111th Street to 130th Street and down 130th Street, that the people that now use the Lefferts A train station, they could use the 111th Street A train station and still have access to Kew Gardens. And then they could run another. So I'm suggesting two branches of the Q37. One branch that goes, the current route would terminate at 130th and 135th Avenue. And the one that would stay straight along Rockaway Boulevard would go into the airport like the Q10 does. And the only, like I'm saying, the real benefit would be that the 111th Street Liberty Avenue there's less ridership at that station than Lefferts and Liberty. Lefferts and Liberty is very overcrowded. Those bus stops are very overcrowded. There's a lot of traffic there, and I could tell you personally, my wife works in that area, so I 111th Street is a much better option for the people of South Ozone Park. So just consider that as an option. And there's a lot of double park cars on Lefferts Boulevard, and there's none on 111th Street. So that's my opinion, that I think that the 111th Street Liberty Avenue would be a better option for the people of South Ozone Park than Liberty and Lefferts A train. So that's why I'm saying that if they could take the Q37, run straight along Rockaway Boulevard from 111th Street to 130th Street, and just run some of the buses via 135th Avenue. But most of the buses would still, I think that the people would be better off, but they would have to, I think, eliminate the resorts connection there and put all because that wastes a lot of time, and put all that funding into having two branches of the Q37. One going the current route and one up to 135th Avenue, and the other one would basically be like the Q10. The only difference would be we go up 111th Street instead of Lefferts Boulevard. So that's my point. And because there's a lot of double park cars on Lefferts Boulevard, and it delays the buses. And 111th Street is very smooth. It's a wider street most points. So that's I did want to bring that up as an option for the people of South Ozone Park to think about.
Okay, Karina left. I was hoping Karina could comment. Did anybody want to comment on the statements made by Call? Raise your hand, please.
I see BB has her hand raised.
Yes, let's go to BB.
I just want to say quickly, Carl, you're entitled to your opinion, but that does not work, and it will not work for the residents of South Ozone Park, because you're not living their lives. You don't know how far they have to travel and all these things. Now, we all need food on a daily basis, right? Who cannot cook for themselves need access to restaurants and places where they can get food. They need places like the laundromat. They need places like the pharmacy and all these things. What happened then? You're thinking about crowded street. Not Lefferts is not crowded. The buses they travel and they go along their way. 111th Street is narrow. When you hit 111 and Rockaway, there's a big hole that slows down traffic. So that will not work. You have to be living the lives of the people in our community to know what they're going through. You cannot just tell and give your opinion like that without going through the hardship.
Well, I do drive on Lefferts Boulevard a lot, and I always see double parked cars. Trucks double parked, and it's very congested. So I just thought But I always
Well,
meander
those
over
things,
to
Carl,
111th Street.
I'm sorry to stop you there. Those things can be corrected if MTA buses take pictures or so of these people that are double parked. Something can be done to fix that.
Yeah, I understand your
That
point about
route,
restaurants
that
and things.
route is the best route for the people because they need certain access, and that location is where they need the access.
And this
Moving
is
them
why
farther down to 111th Street carries them far out from where they need to get access to things.
Yeah,
and this is
Absolutely. I do
why
have one question for you, BB.
that was my point. Yeah.
Sorry if I'm cutting you off, and that is, let's say you were one of the planners on the redesign team. What would be the first thing that you would have done
Who are you
to
speaking to?
ensure that your community and all communities in Queens would be met, their needs would be met? What would be the first thing that you would have done?
Who are you speaking with?
BB Shaw.
Okay.
Paul, and this is why I'm saying to everyone, we need to be sensitive to everyone's needs. Because when you are, it's different when you're in a vehicle than a bus. It's a whole different ball game. BB Shaw, please take it away.
The first thing, if I'm in the redesign process, I would have a survey done. If I have to create one online and go door to door to get citizens to fill up the survey to find out how do they travel, where do they travel to, the services that they need for this bus to remain where it is. As many of you said, there are 4 schools around in the area that depend on the Q10 too. So it's all gathering information from the citizens that are living in the community to know what their needs are. And then MTA can know how to meet those needs. And that is why MTA already have information from the petition that they collected from the Q10 that was removed, but they replaced it back. So they have information there to know that this Q10 here is a need for the community. So I don't know if I have to go back again and do another petition knocking door to door to residents in this community to get this petition done. But if I have to do it, I am going to try to get it done because there has to be some kind of fairness for those people who cannot, do as much as we can. They need to have some kind of a proper service for them. They shouldn't be having things taken away from them and letting them feel more helpless. We all are going to be old one day, and we don't want to be feeling helpless and disabled and not being able to get to where we want to go. So MTA need to think about themselves too. One day they're going to get old too. So they need to think about the people who needs this bus. That's all that I have to say.
Absolutely, you hit the nail right on the head, and you can count on us to amplify your petitions and amplify your voice and the voices of everyone in your community. And I'm gonna
wait, Jack. BB, you know what? If you can also send us links to your petitions, we'll put it up on our website and our social media. Alan is our bus expert. Alan, did you want to make a comment on what's been said, Alan? Because Alan did many of the operations planning things for MTA. Alan? Is Alan here? Alan,
You have to unmute me.
Go ahead, Alan. Take it away.
Okay. The MTA used to do surveys, but now they claim it's too expensive, and they claim they can get all the information from surveys through MetroCard data, which is really not true because they got to do a lot of guessing with the MetroCard data. And if they did use MetroCard data, it was their obligation to present in the report what they learned from it. Instead, they didn't present anything. They're not giving you any reasons for any of the changes they're making. All they're saying is, we're the experts, we're the planners, trust us, we know what's best for you. And that's not how you do a study. And also notice they're only required to publicize the public hearings on the buses 10 days in advance of the public hearing. So they're waiting to July 14th before they put the notices on the buses. They're doing the absolute minimum publicity that's legally required.
Exactly, and that's not exactly, and you also hit the nail right on the head. That's not how you do a study. You don't rely solely on quantitative data, and in this case, very, very, very limited quantitative data to just say, oh, like maybe half and half are in support or oppose this particular plan. What you're not getting from that is who exactly these people are, where they come from, where they commute, are they disadvantaged in any way, and how is the MTA accommodating for that? That's the information that we really need.
This is how the study was done. They started with some basic premises, some of which are false. Buses are slow. We need to make buses faster. The way you make buses faster is to have fewer stops. No regard is paid to passenger trip time, because even if the bus is saved 3 minutes and you're walking 5 minutes longer, your trip is longer. So nowhere are they looking at that. So they say, we got to make buses faster. You make buses faster by fewer stops and putting in bus lanes. Now, you don't need bus lanes if the bus runs every 15 minutes, but their goal is every year we're going to add another 500, whatever the number is, of bus lanes and also bike lanes. And they're not looking at the impact on traffic. They're not looking at the impact on anything. So, and the premise that buses are slow is not, that's even an incorrect premise to start, because buses in Queens average 11 miles an hour, and buses in Queens, except for Staten Island, the buses are fastest in Queens than any other borough. So to start your basic premise with buses are slow, right away you're starting with a wrong premise. So therefore, the remedies are going to be wrong if your premises are wrong.
And also, did we mention this in our letter, Alan? I think we forgot to add this in. The speed limits. NYC DOT has reduced the speed limits from 25 miles. Now it's gone down to 20.
What they're doing is they're only doing that on select streets right now, but there's still a potential that they're going to be expanding that citywide.
Right, and
so we don't know exactly what they're going to do with it. Yeah, so that would affect buses if buses travel on those streets.
Right, so we have to include that
in Manhattan. Yeah, so that's something that's also, and I do want to expand on one point.
Let me just interrupt you, Charlton. Woodhaven Boulevard used to be 35 miles an hour. There was one part was even 40 miles an hour on Cross Bay. The limited buses ran very fast. They cut it from 35 to 30 and then to 25. Each time that slowed the buses, because the buses used to, I would drive my car in Woodhaven and the buses would go so fast, it would take me a half mile to pass a bus. That's not true anymore. Now Woodhaven is a local street where you average 15 miles an hour, which means the buses are slower. So although the select buses make fewer stops, they're actually slower than the limited buses that they replaced. So the speed limits have a very big effect on the buses.
And I have a feeling that I think another reason why they might be eliminating all these bus stops is to compensate for these lower speed limits, but also just to expand on another point you said, it not only is it making commutes slower, but the eliminations of the bus stops are also making these commutes less accessible, because the MTA is assuming that everyone who rides the buses is able-bodied and willing and able to walk farther to get the bus, which is highly false.
Queens Boulevard is another street that they've totally screwed up. First, in 2003, they added parking to the service road, which really slowed down the buses. Then they replaced the parking with a bike lane. So the solution is to
since the buses can hardly move on Queens Boulevard, the solution now is to put a bus lane in on them and move the buses to the main road. And that's just going to make traffic worse for everybody else. So they're creating a problem and then they're solving it by making it worse.
Mrs. Hewitt, I'm sorry, Alan. Mrs. Hewitt wanted to give us a comment. Did you want to come on real quick?
And then we also saw Mr. David, who will go after
Okay.
Mrs. Hewitt. I did see a comment in the chat from Ms. Hewitt from earlier saying, speak to the community first. Outreach reached out after the proposal.
Got it. Yeah, go ahead, David. I mean, is it David or
Mr. Richard David?
Oh, Richard David. Okay.
Hey, thank you. And I'll respond if I know you're talking to me. So you can say Richard, you can say David, or change it up as you choose. The last gentleman that spoke, I think it was Alan. I think that he was spot on in terms of, the MTA really should have published or discussed or solicited feedback around some guiding principles that would lead to the outcomes that they want. And some of those guiding principles are things that have come up in some of the conversations that I've been a part of. And, they really are, it just feels like it's a little bus-centric and not as passenger-centric right now. And so some of the guiding principles around public safety, people make decisions, for example, to go to Kew Gardens instead of Jamaica. One of the reasons is for public safety. Another guiding principle might be, what is the total commute time that someone is experiencing? Not just how long are they on this bus, and how much are they spending? Are they spending more to get from A to B because of multiple transfers as a result of these decisions? And there are a set of other factors that I think Bibi talked a little bit about that along the lines of why the 111th Street might not really solve the issue for residents in South Ozone Park, because getting to Manhattan isn't the goal for everyone, and it's not the goal for a lot of folks in South Ozone Park. Getting to Lefferts Boulevard is the goal for a lot of folks because that's the commercial center for our neighborhood. That's where folks go to get groceries. In fact, the only stores that are open 24 hours on Liberty Avenue are the vegetable stores. And a lot of older adults rely on those stores, and they are so popular. That's why they're the only stores that are open 24 hours. But that's something that you would need to know if you live there or talk to somebody who does. And a lot of folks use the bus to go only, especially during religious times, to those locations, which are primarily around Lefferts Liberty from South Ozone Park, because that's the only place that shopping for those produce is available. It's also a center of community activities for banking, for a lot of older adults actually take the bus, they go to Liberty Avenue, and they just walk up and down the avenue. It's a pastime. It's how they, some folks sit at McDonald's or the Dunkin' Donuts, and that's one way that predominantly men spend their time. But a lot of the women just go on Liberty, they take the bus to Lefferts and Liberty, they get off, and they walk in either directions. And it's a pastime because maybe they'll see somebody they know. Maybe they'll meet up with somebody from their village, from back home in Guyana, or a lot of other reasons. That's how older adults experience Liberty Avenue. And that's why Lefferts and Liberty is such an important destination and a central point for this community. And that's why the congestion does exist there, because of that need. And it's not just to get to Manhattan. That is relevant for a lot of folks who are going to work or doctor's appointment and other things, but really centering a couple of guiding principles that will lower total commute time, reduce costs, not increase it, and focus on public safety for bus riders, I think are a couple of starting points for guiding principles that the MTA should center in their decision making.
All right, so Richard David, I just wanted to say Thank you to you so much. We know you're very busy. We definitely want to meet with you and we want to discuss things. But I know you follow us on Twitter, you follow us on Facebook, and we're always involved that way. But we will send you the letter. We hope you'll come and speak at our press conference. We need you there. We need you at the rally, and we need all the electeds. We need the civics. We need the community, the store owners, everyone to come out because this plan is really, really going to be devastating. And I do want to apologize on behalf of if anyone was offended by any comments that were made. Sometimes I think when people don't live in an area, they assume things and things are made. And so there were some comments made in the chat. I just wanted to apologize about that. And the other thing was, I know Jack wanted to show us the letter again. So can we pull up the letter, the 3-page letter?
Yeah, no problem. Do we want to go through the whole thing or?
Just pull up the key points. Let's just pull it up. I'm not talking about the letter you have on PowerPoint. I'm talking about the actual letter on our letterhead.
Okay, and our letter is actually also now on Writer's Review. That is our news page on our website. So I can actually pull it up right there.
Oh,
so
beautiful.
Here it is. So here's everything. And this is all accessible on our website, passengersunited.org/Writer's Review. So here it is. So we're asking for the MTA's public hearing to be postponed until at least January of 2025 for these 12 reasons, and everything's outlined in detail. And you can always go back earlier when the meeting's done and we have the recording, and we all explained every aspect of the issue with the plan and the public hearing process. So this is over here. You can, of course, check out in greater detail, and we're also going to be, if you want, we can send over a physical copy, or either that or an email, but whatever you would like us to do, we can definitely get that over to you.
And Mr. David, I had a comment. The Queens link, the loss of the Queens link. I know that was devastating for the community. We actually supported the Queens link. What is the effects of that? Just for like a minute or 30 seconds, can you go into that?
Mr. David, you have the floor.
Sorry, I'm not sure why I have the floor. Maybe my hand was left up from a prior comment.
Oh, no,
but
I had a
have any
question
comment.
for you. The question I had for you is, we supported the Queens Link. It was a very important project for transit equity, and we lost the Queens Link. What are your thoughts on that?
I thought that the Queens Link, I think the timing of the Queens Link came almost to appear as though it was in opposition to the Queens Way. And I think a lot of the conversation became pitting communities against each other. And mostly because of a function of timing, because the Queensway appeared to have traction earlier on, and the Queens Link appeared to be a reaction to that proposal. It seemed unviable for a lot of reasons. And the primary one being, it was hard to see where the funding was going to come from for the Queens Link. And political stakeholders came forward with funding for the Queens Way. And so I wish it didn't appear as though these two things were opposed to each other. And unfortunately, that's that was a lot, that framed a lot of the narrative. And I didn't have a preference of one over the other. I just think that a lot of the cost side of this was more thought out, and it came earlier for the Queensway than it did for the Queensway, and it found greater political support.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. And so, yep, we just hope that everyone will come out for this meeting. In closing, I just want to say thank you for everyone who came out tonight. A lot was discussed here. And we're getting comments coming in. Jack, are there any more hands up or comments?
I see that George has a couple more.
Yeah,
if you
but
want to
let's.
just
Okay, George. Yeah, but
keep them, if it's possible, just keep them as brief as possible, because I know
Yeah.
that time is of the essence. I know some of us, including myself, have commutes that we're going to have to take after this.
Yeah, George is at. For those of you who don't know, Jack is in my house right now, and the poor guy has to travel back. So why don't we just go right to George?
Okay, so a couple of things. One, if you look at the document of the three-legged transfers that are currently available, a few of them, just for some background of, throughout the whole historical planning process with regular routine changes, they do tend to, offer them, but it's not guaranteed. So for Queens in particular, they actually do have a few three-legged transfers in place right this moment. So the biggest one is when the Q4, 5, 84, 85 used to end at 169th and Hillside because the E and the J weren't constructed at, the underground subway section wasn't constructed. So you get an extra transfer to the 17, 30, or 31 for those who still need to make that connection at Hillside rather than Jamaica Center. And then, there's another few, the 83 used to have a branch to Queens Village, so that's programmed in with the transfer on the 27. There's you can go down the whole list and everything. So that's the general, thing with the three-legged transfers, but it should be published. The other thing is, for those who live in South Ozone Park, I have a genuine question out of curiosity regarding the area north of Rockaway Boulevard. I know that there was the original plan had the Q9 going on 130th rather than 135th or Lincoln rather. Was there any particular reason why they decided to just keep it on Lincoln? Was there actual opposition to moving it, or was it just kind of they threw up their hands and were like, you know what, screw it, we'll put it as is? Can anybody from that area speak as to what was the reason why because 130th seems to be a bit more centralized, but there might be some reason I'm not aware of. Hey, Gary?
Yeah, well, it was always last stop Lincoln Street, George, for the Q9. So the Q9 for the last several decades, that last stop was Lincoln Street in Rockaway. The Q10 actually, just to give a little bit of history, the Q10 actually used to go down 131st Street, but because of traffic and parking, and unfortunately there was a fatality in a traffic accident, say probably about 20 years ago, the Q10 was repositioned over to 130th Street, which is a wider street. It just it's more natural for the Q10 to make that right.
So that proves my point. So in the original draft, in the 2019 draft of the Queens redesign, the Q9 was proposed to go up 130th Street instead of Lincoln, because 130th is wider than Lincoln. And in the 2022 draft and the 2023 draft, they put it back onto Lincoln. So my question is, did people specifically say, no, it doesn't work on 130th, we want it on Lincoln? Or was it just that the MTA threw up their hands and were like, we feel like just putting it back on Lincoln? Because to me, I think 130th works. And if there's no opposition or no no strong need for it to be on Lincoln in particular. I think it should be on 130th, because it's more central in that gap between the Q40 and the the existing Q10 on Lefferts. But it seems like this is one of those annoying things where they just we felt like just not doing that change anymore without an actual rationale to it. So I was just wondering, and it seems my suspicion is confirmed that they didn't actually do an analysis of, well, we actually prefer it, we actually need it more on Lincoln. It seems like 130th might actually work better. They just didn't feel like
We have a question
through
for BB Shaw. If you're still on, Jack has a question for you.
Yeah, I think I asked it earlier, and that was the question of if you were in charge of the redesign, what would be the first thing that you do? I think we got that though.
Yes. Okay. So who was somebody else wanted to comment about something? I think Alan was.
Yeah. So Alan, I know you wanted to comment about the Queens Link.
Yeah. Yes. What I wanted to say is in 2017, the MTA's position was that QueensLink isn't necessary because select bus service will increase trips by 30% on Woodhaven Boulevard. When the results came in, that never happened. Trips were shortened by 3%, but only if you traveled 3 miles or more. So they promised up to 30% and they delivered 3%. And that was when the speed limit was 30 miles an hour. Now that the speed limit is 25 miles an hour, trips are actually slower on select bus service than it was before select bus service was put in. So the reality is we need QueensLink today more than ever. And QueensLink incorporates all the features that Queensway incorporates.
We agree. I agree, Alan. I'm sure most people on this call agree. That was the biggest loss for our communities, the Queens Link. Because that would have helped so many people, and shortened commutes, and even the people would not have had to take the buses. Yeah, take it away, Jack.
All right, so
yeah, we need to end the meeting ASAP because it's getting late. So why don't we just do posters real quick, the protest posters. Let's go back to that before we end on a high note. Got it? So we're urging everyone to protest the Queens Bus Network redesign public hearing on July 24th. Demand that the MTA properly incorporate your needs into the plan by paying your $2.90 fare in pennies. Please share these posters on your social media threads. Put it up at the bus stops. Well, actually, be careful about that, but ask local businesses if they can post it in their windows. And I think this will get the MTA to understand that we are not messing around, that we've had enough of it.
Charlton, just one thing. You should change that to nickels because the machines don't take pennies.
No, they do. They say don't put in pennies, but they physically do take pennies. Like people.
Okay.
I mean, well, if people want to put nickels in, that works too. Maybe we should change that to pennies and nickels. Maybe that. You know what, Jack? Maybe we should change that. But whatever people want to put in, and I've already gotten some comments from bus drivers who've said to me, it'll be a miracle if someone pays their fare, $2.90 fare in pennies or nickels. At least they're paying their bus fare. That says a lot about fare evasion, guys. That's going on. It's crazy full fare would be a miracle right now. And, I also suspect that these bus redesign plans, the way that they're redesigning it, could be because of fare evasion. We don't know. That's something that has to be looked into. So we're getting ready to wrap up. It's now 9:51 p.m. Quickly, any 30-second comments, any last quick comments that anyone wants to make? I see Farhan is still here. George had his hand up. George, you already made a comment. So we want to give it to someone who hasn't spoken. And Farhan, did you want to say something? Oh, Danny, our chairman. Danny, our chairman, also didn't get a chance to speak. Danny, did you want to come on?
Yeah, I came up pretty late. I didn't get to hear the meeting too much. So I don't really know too much about the draft plan. I gotta go more. I gotta look more into it. But I got no questions so far.
All right, Danny, we'll send you the letters and everything.
All right.
But we
Awesome.
basically
And you're
talked
also
about,
welcome to watch the recording afterwards too.
Sure, will
yeah.
do.
And a lot of our members work. Please understand, everyone's a volunteers. We all have regular jobs. BB Shaw had a comment. Yeah, go ahead, BB.
I just want to say something quickly about what George said about the Q9 on Lincoln Street. As I said before, the Q9 does not work for people because it does not go on the routes that the people need to access the services. So no matter what they talk about the Q9, putting the Q9 on 130th Street, it will not solve the problem because the people do not need to go to Parson and Archer or Sutphin, as Nia Rollins did her research about those stations where the Q9 stops. There are a number of robberies and rape
Yep.
in the evening. And she has a research of that. So residents do not want to go to a train station where those things are happening and they're working late at night and coming home wee hours in the morning to have to be attacked by anyone.
For
So
BB, it's funny you mentioned that because I live in Queens Village, right? I'm supposed to take the F train coming back and take the Q2 or the Q110. Do you guys know that I take the 7 train to Flushing Main Street, which is also dangerous, but it's safer because police are there, and I take the Q27 home. So, everyone, it's safety. The subways are not safe. The E and F trains are horrible at night. The A trains are horrible. They don't run properly. You could be sitting on those trains for an hour, 10 minutes per station, stuck at a station because the trains are going 5 miles per hour. Danny, our chairman, can attest to this. He has long commutes on the subway. All of us do. So I think this was a very productive meeting. I think we discussed a lot, but I do want to say something that there is so much happening with this redesign. Obviously, we cannot be everywhere, and we did try the best we could. We went to a lot of communities. I know there were some people from College Point who were supposed to come tonight, but College Point is another transit desert that's also being neglected under this plan. And they're losing bus service too. Same thing with parts of Bayside. They're being impacted by this. But because it was a summer night and we had this meeting in July, a lot of people couldn't make it. Now, what happens with the empty public meetings? Let's think about this, guys. That says a lot. And so we have a lot of work as organizers to do to get the elected officials to come out and everything. So in closing, I just want to thank everyone for coming out. We're so proud of all of you who commented tonight. And David made a comment that he made apologizing for his comments. So David, yep. And I think Paul didn't understand certain things. So obviously Paul, I'm sure he apologizes as well. And so guys, we just want to end the meeting tonight. Thank you so much. Farhan, did you want to say anything in closing? Because I know he's been involved in the bus redesign plan. He's been doing a lot of work.
Yeah, so just thank you so much, Charlton, for all the work you're doing, and thank you very much, Passengers United, for everything you're doing. You guys are a grassroots-led volunteer organization. You're not being paid to do any of this, so all of you are taking the time out of your schedules. You don't need to do this, but yet you're doing this for not only the whole of Queens, but for the whole of New York City by going up to the Bronx and going to Brooklyn and going to and each and every single part of Queens. And this really shows the dedication you guys have towards our community and shows the serious commitments that you guys have, And I really wish that the MTA would be taking the time to doing this study, which you guys are doing for free. I wish they use their own expertise to study more about our communities and to actually get to know us so that the way, everyone in the communities has faced hardships from the MTA, especially people from South Ozone Park, like BB Shah mentioned about the removal of the Q10 bus stop, because the thing is, everything that's happening, in Queens that we are facing, none of this needs to happen. We didn't never had to go through these issues in the first place to begin with, had the MTA done their homework in the first place.
Right.
So it's really shameful and it's really sad, because the MTA people are the ones that are the experts behind all of this. They have the expertise, they have everything they need to make sure that mistakes don't occur. Yet every single day, we are seeing that there is some sort of problem. Either the trains are not coming on time, there's signal issues, the buses are never coming on time. Sorry, in fact, just to add one more story to this, I know we already discussed this offline, Charlton, but I do need to mention it over here, and that is the Q40 bus. The Q40 is right in front of the place where I work. And I swear, as someone that has rode the Q40 before, and seeing many of the people that are outside of the stop, it comes after every 20 minutes or at max after every 30 minutes.
Wow.
So
Crazy.
I'm telling you, it's really shameful, like let me tell you, every time that bus stop, right, in front of my workplace, we have so many people loitering at the steps of my workplace because they're all waiting for the Q40 to come.
Wow. And going back to what you said about people hanging out, so one thing we learned tonight is that, and this is something we have to include in our letter, people do not want to go to certain destinations that the MT wants them to go to get on a bus because of safety measures. And so safety is our big thing. We're always on the news for subway safety. We go to a lot of crime scene incidents on the subway after they've happened. So that is something that we will definitely plug. And we're going to look at the crime stats for some of these subway stations around the Q10 and the 37. And that'll also be helpful for the community advocates. So they have that data as well to back up their case. So Jack Nirenberg, I just want to thank him so much for all of his work. Jack, I know you want to say something in closing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I really hope that this is a wake-up call for you, because if it's not, it really should be, because, I mean, this is something that affects all of us. It might not sound like it's as severe, but just you wait until it's implemented. Because we saw what happened in the Bronx, we saw what happened in Staten Island, and it's going to be even more catastrophic in Queens if we don't assemble immediately, if we don't do our part, wake up, and engage our fellow community members. We need all of you to stay active, become even more active, get involved, spread the word, share our materials. We have resources for you, but also comment to the MTA directly. Go to the public hearing whenever that is, if it's on the 20, if they still have it on the 24th after what we do, or if it's on another date. But make sure to put comments in, be specific as possible about what you need them to do. Express your needs clearly and directly, because if you don't do that, you're not giving them the data that they need to help you and actually incorporate your needs into the plan. So be as proactive as possible, because that's the only way that we can get what we need.
All right. And for those of you on the call, again, everybody knows how to reach us. You can call us on the Passengers United phone number. We also have an email for Passengers United. You can send your emails there. It's all on our website. We also have social media pages to keep in touch with us, and we will follow up with all of you. Did anyone put their phone numbers in the chat? Because if they
also keep in mind, we have a page on our website. It's called passengersunited.org, and I'm going to put that in the chat, but you can also go there. And if you go to contact, I think it's under more, but contact, you can submit a contact form, you can join our mailing list. The options are there for you.
And one more thing, guys, we're also having the summer soiree, we're all get together this Sunday. So if you guys want to come out, please do. Did you want to pull it up real quick, Jack, at the end?
Yeah, I'm going to get that up right now, actually. So, yes, our Sunset Social, our kickoff fundraiser is this Sunday. So please feel free to check that out. You can get your tickets online. It is in Queens Village, so when you RSVP, you will get the address. And that is on our website under events. and then you go here and you purchase your ticket. We're going to have food, music. It's going to be a great get together. You'll have a great time. And also, if you just want to contribute otherwise, you can go to support us on our website, and this is how you can donate. Everything is being done through Zephy. That's our fundraising system. Please note that we are still awaiting our 501c3 status, so the donations are not tax deductible at this point. But please feel free. It really helps us. I mean, anything will really help us tremendously. So we greatly appreciate it. And please, we're all in this together. So we're doing our part, but we can only do so much without you.
And
So
I want to
we would
say
greatly
there are other
appreciate it.
organizations out there with millions of dollars. They're invading Queens with bus stop ads. They've infiltrated our elected officials to the point where they're literally donating money to elected officials' campaigns. They have a political action committee. They're called Streets PAC. They are destroying our communities. Transportation alternatives, all these other groups like Riders Alliance, it's devastating what they're doing. And so we need to be on alert because many streets are being turned into open streets, bus lanes, and they're affecting bus service because buses are now going very slow. It's creating traffic and backlogs.
And they're
So we're
also
not
being
affiliated.
diverted too.
Yeah, and we're not affiliated with any of these organizations. We have nothing to do with them. And that's one thing that's good about Passengers United. We're actual passengers, we're independent, and we get the job done. And Danny Nankumar is our chairman. Paul's one of our board members. Alan Rosen, he's our transportation expert. He knows a lot. He used to work for New York City Transit many years ago. David, all of our members that are on. Karina Nieves, she does so much for the community. She attends all the community board meetings, and all of our board members are so engaged and involved. So we want to thank everyone that came on here. And Farhan is one of our volunteers. He does an excellent job. So, guys, thank you for being with us and have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Good night.
Have a great night. I'm just going to save the chat. I'm going to
Yes.
turn off the live stream.
And this was being recorded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. All right. Have a good night.
All right. You too.
Okay.
Let's see.